Cigars live stream. The Thursday night hang is here upon us. What's happening? How you all doing? Good to see all of you. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to 2026. Happy New Year to you. And yeah, what's going on? Hope things are going well out there. Right now, I'm looking at the camera, and I'm hoping that the camera is correctly positioned because I can't see what's happening. And my feed on my what I'm watching has only starting now, so. Okay, that looks fairly good. All right, so how you all doing? Good to see all of you. What's going on? Hope all things are well. So today on the Coffee and Cigars live stream, we're going to be having coffee, smoking cigars, and talking cigars from 2025. And, you know, we had some nice cigars over 2025. We probably smoked the least amount of cigars. Oh, you know, I should look at them. It's the least amount of cigars since the very first year in 2022. I think it was 2022. Because, yeah, I mean, we had like a 2-month hiatus because I was ill from the beginning of July into September. So yeah, it was kind of wild. Let's see here. Gotta go look for the listing. So in 2025, we did 35 cigars. In 2024, we did a total of 43 cigars. Now, we don't really miss many weeks in a year, so I'm wondering, like, why do we only have 43? Well, I'm sometimes away, and sometimes we can't do it. In 2023, we did 45 cigars, so 43, 45, and then 2022, our very first year, we did 44. Wow, we did 44 cigars in 2022. Oh no, maybe we started 2021. Oh yeah, 2020. I don't understand. Yeah, I guess we've been doing it pretty well. Okay, so well there it is. That's what's been happening. Mom, good morning to you. George Juan, how are you? Good to see you. I hung out with George a couple weekends ago at one of our buddies, Mike's place, and had a real nice time. We're doing barbecued oysters. Really good time. Good seeing you, my friends. Good seeing you. Yeah, so 35 cigars this year, and we're going to go through the ranking of them all. And if you want to see the rankings yourself, I do have a link to the actual listing in the description down below. So just scroll down and click on that, and it'll bring you up to a spreadsheet that should allow you to access it, that has all of our cigars that we've ever used on the show in the entirety of our existence. But I do have the actual forms here from last year. So yeah, we're gonna go through all that and then even look at some of the highlights, look at some of the highlights. But first we need to brew some coffee. Let me get the coffee kit running. I've got my coffee kit ready. Today we're gonna do a little bit of a coffee I think we've had this before. This is the Kenya Katheri AA from Bard Coffee up in Maine. We're going to have some of that. And we're going to brew that in our Kogu brewer. And we're going to go back a little bit old school now. And lately I've been doing this thing where I have been, getting hot water just all ready to go. But this time I thought, let's go back and let's make some boiled water. We'll boil the water ourselves so that we can, kind of like the old way. And I've been a little bit lazy about it this past fall, so we're going to get a little bit more into it. Tony's with us. What's going on, Tony? Yeah, man, good times there, George. Good times, good times. All right, let me just open this up. We've got the Firefly, the MSR, I think it's the MSR Firefly stove. These are great little stoves. If you ever need like a little stove, they're not terribly cheap, but they are terribly good. Mountain Safety Research, which is MSR, they do an excellent job making excellent products. Butane powered, and I'm sure there's some kind of device that we can add to this that you could make it into like a lighter or at least a torch of some sort. But these little canisters, and I think the threading is all universal, but these little canisters, little butane canisters, not terribly expensive. You get them like REI or anywhere really. So let's, I have my lighter that I keep with it, but I found this. I was going through an old toolbox and I found this old Burns-O-Matic butane. There's a refillable butane torch, and it's cut this small, like you can see that there, so we'll use that. There we go. And then we need some water. So we've got some water here. This is more or less 12 ounces of water. We got the cap. We got this. That's the one downside about these, is that it's very, very loud. So we're going to try to pump it up really quick, so we don't have to wait too long. And we need to get the coffee. We use the lid as a measuring device. We don't have a measuring device like that. I don't have a scale with me this time, so we're just going to measure it out. You can light right off the burner. What do you think? That's a good point. That's a good point. Oh, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too much. I don't know if that's too much or not, but we're going to roll with that. Yeah, I don't know why I just did that. I know where the measuring is. For the Kogu grinder, it only holds enough to make a 12-ounce cup, so that should be, that's our measuring. See, it's been so long. Oh yeah, that's the same thing, more or less. It's been so long since I've done this, it's kind of hard for me to remember all of the details. Like the reason we're not using the onboard microphone is because I forgot to recharge it. And when I went to turn it on, like 10, 20 minutes ago, it was almost dead, and I was like, oh man. So now it's grinding. I think I'm getting a better feel for this manual grinding thing. Hey George, I'm going to come down to Tobacco Leaf tomorrow night. Probably around 6 o'clock or so. All right, there we go. And let's get our brewer together. As you know, the Kogu folds up. We've used this quite a few times, so I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this one. There are filters. There we go, the boiling water is ready. Oh, the nice thing, it's kind of fast. It's got so much output. Okay, now that's ready to go. So much more nicer when it's quiet. That is the downside of this stove, is that it's very, very noisy. It's very, very loud. Okay, we've got our coffee ready, so let's start brewing. So I picked this Cutlery up from Bard. My friend owns Bard. Bob Garver owns Bard in Portland, Maine. So when I was up there in October, I picked this up, and it's a nice coffee. We've had it a couple times, so I'm looking forward to it. Mom, I think I'm going to use this on tomorrow morning show as well. The bar. And tomorrow's show, I've got I've got a pecan log from a place called Stuckey's. If you guys ever traveled south on I-95, you're probably familiar with Stuckey's. You've seen it along the side of the road. I have never stopped in, but I found it. I was at Rural King yesterday. Rural King is one of those like farm stores in the middle of nowhere. It was in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So I was like, I actually drove by it and I was like, what is that Rural King place? I was like, man. And actually there's a company that, so if you ever watch Project Farm here on YouTube, that guy does all kinds of reviews. And he did a review at some point where he was reviewing chainsaw bar oil. And I was like, huh. And it came up with this company. It says that Oregon makes really good chainsaw bar oil. And there was another one. It was something rural, something like that. And I was like, oh man, maybe they'll have it at Rural King because they don't sell at the Tractor Supply. And I was just wanted to see if they had it, and they didn't. They had Still, which, you know, I always thought that Still would be really, really good. Like, I bought Still chainsaw oil in the past, and, you know, Project Farm was like, well, it's good, but it's not as good. It's not even like in the top. I was like, oh, really? Still does not make something amazing? How is that possible? Very disappointing. Very disappointing. So how's your guys' days been? Since the last couple of weeks that we've been away, what's been going on? Did you guys do anything? What did I do for New Year's? New Year's. Oh, I went out to a friend of mine had. Is that right? Oh, I met up with some friends. We went to eat at a place called G&M. That's what I did New Year's Eve. Went to G&M with some friends for dinner, and they were like, "We got to go to an early dinner." I was like, "Early dinner? Yeah, 5:45." By 5:45. What are we, 80 or something like that, you know? And they're like, well, they close at 7. Like, they close at 7 on New Year's Eve. And I was thinking, well, I guess G&M is that place where people that are 70s and 80s, they do eat there. And so they eat there at 4 o'clock. So it's like 4 o'clock. Yeah, I guess you can close by 7. And then hung out at a friend's house until before midnight, and then hung out with family for the New Year. So that was kind of nice. Tony says, early bird special and no bar. But they have a bar there. And I was like, man, I couldn't believe it. I was like, nah. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I was trying to remember what I did for New Year's. And that's what we did New Year's. And then we did the barbecue thing. That was the weekend before New Year's, I think, right? Right, George? Is that the weekend before New Year's? I don't remember. Last weekend was my niece's birthday, so she turned 16 and is getting ready to drive. I was like, whoa, driving already, holy God. Is this what it was like for my parents? Terrible. Terrible. It's terrible. I'm not. But it makes sense, you know, they're, 16, and gosh, when we were 16, we were doing all kinds of dirty things. And then I have not seen, speaking of dirty things and being 16, evidently the last episode, the finale of Stranger Things happened, and they were, everybody's been talking about it. Everybody watched it. I didn't watch it. I've not seen any of Stranger Things at all. I have no idea what it is. But I hear that it's based in the 80s. So I'm like, yeah. I've been thinking about it more. Like, maybe I should watch it. It was a Saturday after Christmas. Okay, so just making sure. So, yeah. So how are you doing out there in the cold? It's not too cold today, is it? Not too cold. I'm glad we've had 50-degree weather the last couple of days. I thought we were going to get some rain. Or there's rain tomorrow. Is rain coming tomorrow? Maybe rain is coming tomorrow. So, but I'm glad we had some warmer weather. I was planning to do some work here in the wood shop, right in the garage, but man, just so much like you got to do these things, and then it just takes time, and suddenly it's like 6 o'clock. You're like, what in the world happened to the entire day? It's like yesterday I had to go to Pennsylvania, went to the farm show. There's a farm show that's last day is tomorrow, in case you're interested, up at the York Fairgrounds. So if you're interested in farm equipment, all kinds of farm equipment, Case, International Harvester, John Deere, Kubota, everybody's out there. Mahindra, everybody's got their huge. I was playing around with this huge harvester. I was like, oh, this is a harvester. And then I got to sit inside the cab. Man, they're really nice. They're all plush and comfortable seating, and then all the controls are right at your fingertips. And everything is just kind of like rests for your arms. You can, I guess it makes sense because you're going to be in this thing for months at a time, so you need to have it be comfortable. Not bad at all tonight, says George. I see Stranger Things every day. Touche, my friend. Touche. All right, we're almost there with our coffee, thank goodness. It's taken us a little bit of a while. I feel like it's taking a bit long. Maybe the grind is a little bit too fine. Yeah, right now we've got the doors are open, and hopefully we get some nice evacuation. Like, man, it was just so cold. Like last Thursday was a New Year's Day. Someone asked me, "Are you gonna do the live stream?" I was like, "Oh, I can't. I was unable to have family events going on." But I was like, "Man, if I did, it'd be cold. It was cold outside." I was like, "It was cold, man. Cold. Too cold. Too cold. Too cold to be outside." Like, it's just no fun when it's this cold, right? So Tony's having the Roma Craft Chrome Magnum Corona Gorda and a Diet Cherry Pepsi. The Pennsylvania Broadleaf. Oh, that I like this new interpretation of the Pennsylvania Broadleaf. And actually, I smoked one cigar this past week. Maybe it was Monday or Sunday night. Monday. No, Saturday. It had to be Saturday. It was because I remember I was coming back home and I was thinking I would like to have a cigar tonight. And then I was thinking, I've got all these cigars here. Here's my problem. I have all these cigars in the house. There's a few cigars that I have that are earmarked for this show, so I won't smoke them until we do them here. And the other ones, while I have quite a lot of cigars that are well aged and like some very nice cigars, I have like no more Roma Crafts that I like to smoke. And I was like, man, I would like to have that flavor of the Roma. I was like, man, what am I gonna do? I'm totally exposed at the moment. So I drove over to the local cigar shop and they were open. I got there like at 7:45. They closed at 8 o'clock. I was like, all right, I'm going inside, get me the cigar. I picked me up one of the Castillo de Murcias, which I've been smoking a lot in 2025. And then I grabbed another one that has like the candy cane wrapper on it. And I smoked the Castillo de Murcia that night, that Saturday, but I have not smoked the other one. I'm still waiting. I thought I was going to smoke like the last couple nights, but I've been so exhausted. Like, I get to that point like 8 o'clock and I think, maybe I'll have a cigar. And the weather's warmer. I was like, this is an ideal time to be outside. Right? Because Saturday was like 30 degrees. It was kind of rough. But I was like, man, but then I was just so like, I was just so exhausted. Like, I couldn't sleep. Today's Thursday. I couldn't sleep Tuesday night. Like I did training on Tuesday night. Tuesday evening, I did training at one of my clients, and I must have drank too much coffee. And I used to be able to drink coffee at nighttime and no issues. But man, I could not sleep at all Tuesday night. So yesterday when I was driving, man, it was brutal. It was brutal. It was really tough. All right, let's have a taste of our coffee. A little bit on the lighter side, a little bit brighter, good body. Nice sweetness. All right, that works. That works. Okay, let's put this on the side here. And let's move on to our cigar of the evening. Oh, where did it go? Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. All right, and I think, how is the sound? Is it sound all right? Because I think I'm going to try to switch right now, so that it sounds a little bit better. I know the phone doesn't sound as good as it could be. Put this in right now. All right, that should be a little bit better. Did that change? Let me know if that changed for the better or change it for the worse. We will. I've been having a lot of trouble with sound on the live streams lately for dumb reasons. All right, and oh man, what in the world am I even thinking? Oh, better. Okay, good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. You know, and here's what I forgot to do. I also forgot to really get ready. Gosh, so many things I forgot to do. But so this cigar that we're smoking tonight is something that came to me by George Brightman. Thank you very much, George. I really appreciate this. And we were all together at that barbecue a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Here's a cigar for you. You can smoke it now, or use it in the show, whatever you want to do with it." And it was kind of cold that night, and I had my little cigar box, so I just took it. I was like, "Thank you very much. I really appreciate it." I actually didn't really get a chance to look at it really well to see what it was. It was just kind of cold. I was thinking maybe I'll smoke it. I was like, "No, I'll keep it for later." And I just put it in my box. Sorry, George, if you felt that I didn't give it enough attention, my apologies. That was not the intention. And then the other day when I was thinking, what would we do for the show? Let me see what George gave me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's craziness. So this cigar is the Trinidad 55th Anniversary Cigar. And basically, the Trinidad has this history of, being considered one of the secret cigars of the cigar industry. So Trinidad started when, many, many years ago, this is, I guess, 55, so it's like 50, 56 years old or something like that when it was first created. Evidently it was created the year of my birthday, so 1969. After the fall of Cuba, after the fall of Batista and Fidel Castro came to power, Fidel was a big cigar smoker, and he wanted to have his own cigar. So the Trinidad, when I got into cigars in the 90s, the Trinidad was a very fabled cigar that nobody could get because all they had was one cigar, one size. And it was a cigar just for Fidel, and it was a Lancero, and it was a cigar that only he got. And if you got it, you had to engage with Fidel. Like he had to know you, or you'd be a guest of the state or whatever, and he would give you a cigar. And it was reputed to be the greatest cigar that Cuba was producing at the time, greater than Monte Cristo, greater than Cohiba, right? So, but then many years later, they started to expand the Trinidad line and increase production as well as increase distribution for it. So now you can buy the Trinidad, and I think maybe one of the reasons that George might have given this to me because he must have heard me at some point talking about my experience with the Medio Luna, right? So in 2018, Habanos decided to release a new size for the Trinidad line, and it's called the Medio Luna. And the Medio Luna is kind of like a Robusto size, I think it is. It was November of 2018, and I happened to be in Frankfurt, Germany, and I went down to the La Casa del Habano, which is like one of their official franchisees of Cuban cigars. And the LCDH, the La Casa del Habano, had just opened their Frankfurt branch. And it's really beautiful, beautiful stuff. You ever go to Europe and you see these fanciful shops in Europe, they're always really well done, very sleek and very elegant looking places. Very modern, but very elegant. And I was there and they're like, and I was like, well, when I go to these cigar places in other countries, I always ask them what cigar is there that I can't really get elsewhere? And the guy was like, well, this is something they just released, the Media Luna. And I was like, it's a Trinidad line. I was like, oh, okay, good. And I don't know how much it cost. I don't remember. Maybe it was like 30 euros or something like that, $30 for the cigars. It was not cheap. However, it was way before the crazy price increases that happened in 2022 or 2023. So it was fairly reasonably priced, but it was, Robusto size. But man, this thing, whoa, I was like, this is beautiful. You hear stories about Cuban cigars being, inconsistent and terrible and all that, and certainly they are. And then you hear these stories about people, when you get a really great one, it's really great. And this particular Medio Luna was sublime. It was truly exquisite. It was a beautiful, beautiful cigar, and I just enjoyed the hell out of it, right? And luckily, I was at the LCDH, and they had this beautiful cavernous downstairs basement bar. And I mean, it's cavernous because it looks like they chipped it out of the limestone. It's very cave looking. The walls are chipped out, and they've got this banquette that runs along the base, and this huge bar that's all modern. And it's like, whoa, this is really fantastic. But the problem is that above the bar, they had this one big filtration exhaust system. So imagine this big cavernous space, and here's the exhaust system way over here, and you're sitting way over here. So filtration wasn't very good. It was terrible. It was actually kind of weak. I was like, man, it wasn't that great. And I was like, oh, that's too bad, man. What a shame. Especially since I think that trip I had just come from Saudi Arabia, where we had smoked at the Sheraton Riyadh, this 1980s built old building of a Sheraton. And we'd smoked in their cigar smoking lounge, and that had beautiful extraction. It was just beautiful. I was like, this is incredible. This is an old ass hotel, but it's got incredible extraction because they had spent all these decades trying to figure it out, and they realized that they needed to put exhaust ports above every area that you're smoking in, and that worked very, very effectively. So that's how, so maybe he must have heard that, me talking about it, but he gave it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, man, this is just crazy, man. Just a crazy, crazy, beautiful Cigar. And so let's have a look here. I'm going to look it up here. It says, I'm looking up here for the thing. All right, so back in June of, and this is, I'm looking at the article they have linked here. So back in June of 2024, so over a year ago, 18 months ago, it says here from Cigar Aficionado that the first live Habanos World Days took place in London. The affair was devoted to Trinidad and also served as a premiere party for the Trinidad Cabildo's 2024 Edición Limitada, a cigar measuring 6 3/8 by 46. It was a reef five count sets per beer packs with a retail price. So here we go, 5 count set for 795 pounds. Pounds! Good Lord. That's like $1,000. That's like $200 a cigar. Oh yeah, which amounts to about $1,000 or $200 a cigar. If you, my God, man, that's crazy. So that's what this is? So this is a 6 3/8 by 40. This is not 46. This can't be 46. Is it? Is this the right one? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, holy shit. We're talking like, this is a $200 cigar? Holy crap. Thank you, George. Good Lord, man. This is insanity, then. Insanity. So here it is, the Trinidad 55th anniversary. I mean, this must be it. I mean, what is 46 ring gauge? My problem is I cannot call Siri because Siri's on my phone. Oh, I know here. 46 ring gauge diameter is 18 millimeters. Let's find out. Just want to make sure that I know what we're talking about here. Otherwise, it's like, if you're going to buy a digital calipers and you want a really great set, Mitutoyo. I've had these since like the 90s, and these are excellent calipers. Oh, crap. This is 46 ring gauge, 18.96. Although I'm sure it's swelled a little bit, but 18.67. Oh, man. All right. Oh. And yeah, that's got to be 6 inches. Holy smokes. Really, it's not that I question what it is. I'm just making sure that I'm identifying it as the right thing. Oh yeah, this is it. The 55th anniversary. Well, Friday, June 21st, 2024 was the release date. And look at this thing. This thing is just, let me just go here, click back on the page. You can see it's got this, the regular band for Trinidad. It's got the 55th anniversary band. And then it has this footband, which is just like the Trinidad logo. Now, this is really, holy smokes. Ooh, very light manure aroma to it. Let me also get my score sheet here. Tony says, it looks like it adds 10 pounds. I hear you, man. I hear you on that. But evidently, according to Google, I asked Google, what is a 46 ring gauge in diameter? And it says 18.11 millimeters, 0.72 inches. And it registers as 18 plus millimeters. So that's got to be, yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, all right, excellent. And it looks to be, well, let's see how long it is. Yeah, 6 inches. So, wow. All right. 6 by 46. Wow. All right. All right. All right. And it's a fairly light wrapper. You can see fairly light wrapper. So I'm going to put this in the lighter wrapper category right there. So a fragrance, it's not a very intense fragrance. It's a very lighter, but a very light manure, very light manure. All right, let's do some cutting here. Let's see what people have been saying. Tony says, I feel your pain. This was the last of a 10-pack I bought just cause. Oh, I hear you on that. I hear you on that. George says, Tatuaje Avion tonight with a neat pour bourbon from Rockville, Maryland. Nice, dude. Nice. So the bourbon was made in Rockville. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly? Eric's with us. What's going on, Eric, man? How are you doing? Enjoying a La Gloria Cubana Reserva Figurados and an ice water. Awesome, man. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, there's even like a little bit of a tail on the cap. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. That's very nice. Tony says, looks like a 54 on the big screen, so the camera does add 10 pounds. But he says that just looks like the Harbor Freight calipers, but they're, I did get the Harbor Freight, and I did write Mitutoyo on it so that it would be, just so I could flex a little bit here. All right, let's do some cutting now. Actually nice and supple on that wrapper. We're watching on Buddy's big screen. It looks like. Well, thank you. That's very kind. That's very kind. All right, here's something that I think is notable and unusual, is as I put it in the mouth, there's a resilience, a bounce, a chewiness to this right here that I don't get from other cigars. It's very unique to this one for some reason. Almost like a gummy sensation, and not like that hard gummies. Those hard gummies, they suck, right? You get those like gummy bears and they're hard. Like, what the hell, man? Like, why are we having hard gummies? Who made this stuff? Make it soft like it's supposed to be, for God's sake. Wow, now there's a very distinct and interesting flavor on the cold draw. That's very unusual, but very comforting, very interesting, very alluring. George Shem's asking, most expensive cigar to date on the live stream? You know what? I would have to say, yeah, God, this is like $200. I think the most expensive we've had in the past was, of course, the Mirfil Mare was like $50, 45, $50. The big one from my father, I don't think it was that. It was probably right around the Mare price range. So yeah, $200. This is like. But I gotta say, there's a flavor to this that's kind of exciting. Like, I'm kind of excited. Like, it's not a robust kind of flavor. Like, sometimes you get these cigars that are very robust. They're very dominant. They're very like statement oriented. This is very kind of like reserved. There's a light spiciness to it. There's a light sweetness to it. There's just a character about this cigar. And I mentioned early on that there was a little bit of that manure kind of aroma, but it's really minute. It's really like low intensity. And this has some spice, and that spice is developing more in the back of my throat as we're going along here. I mean, George says, good thing you didn't review this in Deep Creek in the jacuzzi. Those were epic times, weren't they? My gosh, man. Oh, some cold days. Like, you would think that a hot tub would not lose its heat in that way. Man. All right, we're going to have to get into this, so let me peel off this footband. It's all gold, so I'm presuming there's like real gold somehow or some kind of gold embossing, and the paper's tearing. Come on, man. I don't want to destroy the footband. Oh, no! It's stuck to the wrapper. Look at that. It's coming off the wrapper. Oh, what the? Ah, that's the price of a cigar just fell by $60. Look at that. What happened there, man? This is when I wish I had like, oh no, I only have citric acid. If I need like to get some xanthan gum. Oh man. All right, let's light it up. We're going to use our Burns-O-Matic. Look at that flame. It's so like small. Just a little roasting. There's definitely a light spice. It's not a bold spice, but it's a spice that kind of like builds on your palate. Now, you guys might know this, and Bud might know the reason. Why is this flame orange? What does that mean? It's not hot? It's not as hot as the blue, right? The only time I've seen orange flames is when I'm burning a fire and I'm burning things like particulate board. Probably not supposed to do that. Nice thing with this one, it's got the gooseneck. Mm. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so there's a good amount of body in the flavor. There's a smoky character. I mean, but I'm saying that the flavor has a very smokiness to it. David says, hurry up and light it before it falls apart. I know. It's one of the problems. Like, oh my gosh. Things going to unravel. I'm going to be in trouble. All right, so it's starting off with this smoky character that has nice flavor to it, but it's not like, it's different. It's very different. Due to the air-flue mixture. Ah, okay. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? Or just a there it is thing? All right, I would say that there's good strength. Like, there's some spice to it. There's just spice and smoke and strength. The draw is nice and firm. All right, let's see. Cold draw, really interesting, kind of medium, and I'm going to say like, I'm going to say it's excellent 9 because it's very different. It's very different than what we normally smoke, and now that we're starting out, it's got a very forward presence. I was going to say it's got a very strong presence, but I wouldn't say that it's strong. I would say it's a very forward, assertive presence on your palate. Good smoke production, like very copious amounts of smoke, so it's very, very comfortable to smoke. All right, we're going to get into this. But let's talk a little bit about our cigars for 2025. I brought all of our score sheets along from this year, and I did finally compile all of them onto the database. So if you want to see that, you can at the link down below. And so, you know, if you want to look at that, you can see at the very, we're not going to recap all 35. We'll go through some highlights here. Unfortunately, at the very bottom of our ranking was one that we reviewed not too long ago. And I mean, you know, these are not horrible cigars, right? These are not horrible by any means. You know, we do use that 100-point scale. And remember, when we talk about these scores, if we think about the scoring system that I'm using, If it's 60 to 70 points, we consider that to be average, just an average cigar. 70 points to 80, 70 to 79 is like, is good. 80 to 89 is very good, and 90 and up is excellent. Like that's really the echelon that, you know, and very few cigars ever get to that level, right? Like if we look at our cigars that we reviewed in the show, and we're probably, you know, I should have compiled some stats, which I totally did not even think about until now. So we did 35 this year, or last year, 2024, we did 43, 68, and then 45, 113, and 157 cigars total in the existence of our live stream. And we did not score the first year. So 100, did I say 158? 158. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So out of 158 cigars, we have 8 that made it into, that was 90 and above. So the percentage of cigars that are going to make that level is very low. Now, some of you may be watching and be like thinking, oh, you know, well, how come Cigar Aficionado has all these, and all these other places, they're like, everyone's 90 plus. Everybody gets a 90. It's kind of like Oprah. They're all like Oprah. Everybody gets a 90. You get a 90, and you get a 90, and you get a 90. We don't do that here, right? We try to bring some level of rigor that's hopefully even and across the board, so that hopefully when you see something that's going to be 90 here, it's going to mean something. It's going to mean like I should try to seek that out, right? Brian says, that's what's going on, man. How are you doing? And so 8 cigars out of 150, 158, 157, one of those two. Percent is not going to change depending on one of those. And this year is also, or this past year, 2025, was also the highest scoring cigar ever. Right? So kind of interesting. All right, but at the low end of our scale from last year was something that we smoked within the last month, or just about within the last 30 days. And we smoked this back in December, the December 4th issue, where we smoked the Holtz Factory Special Torpedo Maduro. Now here's a cigar that when I was smoking, it was really kind of difficult to smoke. It was really just not so enticing, not so exciting. And I remember saying that, you know, it was just one of those cigars that if you need to spend some time smoking with your friends or golfing or whatever, you could use this. And I smoked, and I bought 4 of them when I was at Holtz. I've smoked all of them now. I smoked the other 3 while I was outside by the fire watching episodes of Pluribus. And actually, I enjoyed that cigar a lot more when I wasn't considering it. And I mean, I enjoyed it far more when I wasn't considering it than I did on the show. Like, it was like, oh, this is a lot more enjoyable than it was evaluating it. So if you ever get to Holtz, you know, I gotta say, I revised my position on it. Not the score. The score is, I would say the score at 70, which is right at the very bottom of good, is still accurate, but it's just that I think you'll enjoy it better when you're not trying to like be critical of the cigar. So that's our most modestly rated cigar of 2025. That's probably the best way to put it. Well, here's my ashtray. I'm trying to think where I put the ashtray. And let's see here. What else? I'm going to look here at the listings to see. We're not going to go through them all, but we smoke I think we smoke quite a wide range. Oh, the next one that's on the lowest end, I wanted to include this one last year because I thought it would be interesting because, you know, partially because of nostalgia, but also because, you know, those of us who've been smoking cigars for a long time tend to look at this brand and tut it quite a bit because, you know, it's one of those cigars that you give, that we always recommended for like newbie smokers. Like, hey, I'm new to cigar smoking, what should I try? It's like, you should try this cigar. I don't think most of us do that anymore because part of it, I think, I just don't see this cigar out in the stores much at all as it used to be. Maybe I'm just going to the wrong stores or whatever. And that is the Macanudo Cafe. And the Macanudo Cafe was like one of the old school Duke of Windsor right? Old school cigar. And what did we say here? We gave it 75.25. So it's a bit better than the Holtz, but 75.25. So that's kind of nice. That's kind of more nostalgia than anything else to have that. We did that back in May 29th. So that was something interesting. What else do we have here? One of my friends in the cigar business is is a guy out in San Antonio, Texas, and I met him at the IPCPR show many, many years ago. We were hanging out. And the reason we met is because he was getting ready to start his cigar shop in San Antonio, and just outside of San Antonio. And I was staying at Treasure Island. And Treasure Island, if you're familiar with the show in Vegas, Treasure Island, a lot of cigar people stay there, but who really likes to stay there is Nick Perdomo. Nick Perdomo loves to stay there for whatever reason. He brings his whole entire crew, so pretty much every night, the entire company of Perdomo is taking up the bar area. And my friend, it was one of his was going to be one of his customers, so was hanging out, and we started hanging out for some reason, and so we just hung out a lot at the shows, and I would see him every year. And so finally, when I was in Houston in April, my cousin at the time lived in San Antonio. So I called her up and said, I'm going to come stay at your house. She's like, come on out. I was like, all right, come in. And so I finally got to go visit his place. It's a place called Mam's Cigar Shop, M-A-M, Cigar Shop, just outside of Austin, right by one of the military bases. And went there, and he has this whole program where he has cigars for veterans. And evidently he was telling me that there's an organization out there that does cigars for military personnel where they collect cigars, but evidently the way they run it, and this is what he told me, it wasn't, he didn't like the way they ran it, basically. He just did not agree with whatever system of distribution they use, he did not agree with it, he did not like it, he did not think that the war fighters really got cigars. So because he has a whole network within the military, he started gathering cigars from his customers who wanted to donate. They have a box inside the humidor. If you want to put cigars in it, he will make sure it gets to actual like military personnel in the field, active duty, and he sends them out on a monthly basis. So I bought a bunch of cigars. I tossed it in the box, and he had this house cigar called the Mam's Cigar Shop Maduro, and I was like, let me try this Maduro. And where is it? Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Smoked this May 1st on the show. 82.5. 82.5. He does not have bands on his cigars. And that was pretty enjoyable. That turned out to be pretty enjoyable. You know, here's the one that I was so disappointed in. I'm going to talk a little bit of disappointment. Because I was hoping for so much more from this cigar. Really, just so much more. And it was one that's lower ranked than the Mams. And I just saw it in here. And, you know, I really was hoping for this cigar to be really, like, incredible. Like, I really wanted it to be incredible because it's named in homage to one of the great cigar makers of the business. And I got to know this guy pretty well back in 2014. Back in 2014, I was in Nicaragua. And one of my friends was running a trip. My friend Marvin from Hawaii was putting together a trip to do the Drew Estate Cigar Safari, and I was like, man, want to come? I was like, yeah, man, let me know. I'm going to come out. And so I flew down there. I did my work, and I went to go visit my farms at the farms and bought coffee. And then I went back to Manawa and met up with the guys and went on this whole odyssey of Cigar Safari Drew Estate. Cigar's kind of having trouble combustion. It's very, very hydrated. Like, it's very... George has kept this very, very well. Brian says, just reading the post in the hot tub. I got to download that and make a video out of it. But So that trip, after the cigar safari was over, all the guys went back, and Marvin, myself, and Dan decided to stay in Esteli longer for a few more days because, Marvin wanted to go meet some of his other contacts, and he introduced me to people like we went to go visit. We went to visit um, Padron, and we hung out with Pete, with Skip a bit, and we went to I met Dion from Illusione, and we hung out with the Aganorsa guys. And that's where I met um, Eugenio Ramos, who was the Cuban guy who was the blender for Aganorsa. And for whatever reason, Arsenio just took a really shine to me. Like, he was always very open. And Arsenio doesn't speak English. And my Spanish is still, then and now, still relatively very rough. But he was always talking and like taking me around and showing me things and like, try this tobacco. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, and we sat there and smoked tobaccos and ate and had a great time. Like, and then when I would see him at the shows, we would always hang out and talk. And like, he'd be talking and I'd be like, see, yeah, right. Trying to fully understand what he's saying. And I would, communicate with him in my broken Spanish. But so he passed away a couple years ago, and Aganorsa wanted to make a cigar to pay tribute to him, and they called it the Arsenio Robusto, and we have that here. Now, the score overall, the score isn't bad, right? It got 80.5. I give it 80.5, but you know what? I was really hoping that this was going to be a cigar that was truly sublime, just like on the level of the Mirfelmer and the 20th anniversary, my father, just like something truly stellar, like a good 10 points above this, 10, 12 points above this. But it wasn't. And I remember smoking it and I was like, 8.5, 8, 8.5, 8, 8.5, 8, 8.5. Burn and draw was rough, so 7.5. Consistency was off, 7.5. God, man, it was so painful to give these scores. Painful on a personal level to give these scores. 7.5 overall. So it's like, man, I really was hoping to give something really, really I really wanted to be like a 99 or something, but the difficult part is that, if you're trying to, the idea is that we want to review them consistently. And so it's like, no matter how much I want it to be more, I just couldn't. It just wasn't, so. Brian wants to know, what is the cigar tonight? I jumped on and didn't read tonight's cigar choice. This is the Trinidad 55th Anniversary cigar that was given out, was sold in 2024, June of 2024, in celebration of Trinidad's 55th anniversary. It was gifted to me by George Brightman. Thank you, George. And turns out that a box of 5 was selling in London back then, $1,000. So this is a 18 months ago, this was a $200 cigar. I presume they're all gone, and I presume that people who have this and are trying to sell it will sell it for more. Olu says, I bought a few of the Trinidad 55, but I have yet to smoke. Smoke one, man. Don't hold back. You know what? Many years ago, when I first started getting into cigars, in 1995, Partagas, both Havana Partagas as well as Dominican Partagas, decided to celebrate their 150th anniversary of Partagas. And Partagas released this cigar called the 150th Anniversary. Both companies. And yeah. And these cigars came out, and they had, in America, in our market, we had different versions of it. One of them was called the Don Ramon. And the Don Ramon was their biggest cigar. I forgot the size, but they came, each one had their own little coffin case, and those 10 coffins came in a big carved humidor that looked like a book. They were numbered, each book was numbered, and there was only 300, I think there was only 300 released. I bought one, because I was like, I gotta buy one. I got to have it. So I bought it. $300 for this box. In 1995, astronomical price. I mean, the Partagas number 10 back then was no more than $4.50. So to think you're buying $300 cigar box is just crazy money at the time, crazy money. But it was one of those cigars that was like, oh, it's so special, it's so special, it's so special. I didn't smoke one. I didn't smoke one from that box until 6 years ago, until 2019. Why? Because I thought, oh, I need to save it for my wedding. I need to save it for my first child. I need to save it for my divorce. None of which has happened. So I was like, man, I got to smoke it. So 50th birthday, I smoked one. Great cigar. But you know what? Don't hold on. What are we holding on to it for? We're going to be dead soon. So why hold on to it? Smoke it now. So this, actually, had I known this was a $200 cigar before we lit up, maybe I wouldn't have smoked it either. But we're smoking it now, so don't hold back, man. Just go with it. Because the truth is, we really don't know what's happening tomorrow, so you might as well smoke what you got and enjoy them. And it's really nice. It's a very smooth, composed. Now that I'm into it, right now that we're just this far into it, remember I said early on it was kind of spicy? The burn's a little bit off, like right there, but now it's like, there was that spice at the beginning, and it's kind of mellowed, like it's mellow, like it's just smooth, well composed. It's not shooting off with different types of flavors. It's just a really balanced blend. But silky on the smoke, silky on the mouth, soft on the teeth and the lips, like it's a very nice experience to smoke it. Olu says, you're right, I'll try one this weekend. Yeah, man, don't hold back. And subscribe, thank you, we appreciate that. Tell your friends, encourage your friends to come join us. We'd love to have more people come join us. God, that is, yeah, that's nice, that's nice. And by the way, I bought a few of those Trinidad 55s. Nice little flex there, nice work, nice work. I love it. There was a guy on one of the woodworking forums today. He's like, he puts a picture. He's like, here's my new bandsaw, right? So he's got this bandsaw in a box, this big old bandsaw, 14-inch bandsaw. Probably cost him like, $1,700, right? It's like, oh, everyone's all like, oh, the bandsaw. Now what he did is he put it on he forked it into his workshop on a big Kubota front loader with the arm, right? The arm, like a track loader, kind of with the arm. And I saw the A and I saw the orange arm and I was like, nice little flex there, bro. Nice Kubota flex there. Nice. All right, so let's see, what else do we have here in our... Now, one thing I want to give a shout out to is that a lot of the cigars this year, so out of our 35 cigars that we did on the show, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them that I reviewed on the show were gifted to me by Mom. Thank you, Mom. I really appreciate you giving me those cigars. Mom gave me a whole bunch of cigars from the Privada Cigar Club that he's a member of. He was like, I got some extra cigars, man. I want you to have them. I was like, well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. So Mom fueled a lot of our episodes this past year. So appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate that. And it turns out all these cigars from Privada were all over the place, right? In our ranges. Some were in the 70s, and I gotta be honest, some were in the 70s. So then the rest were in the 80s. So they've got a wide range of flavors happening in that club. And I know some people don't like it. But I think, when I was a member of one of the versions of the Privada Cigar Club, I always enjoyed the cigars. They sent me like 4 cigars a month. That's fine. It's great. It's a great way to have something different that you're not really having, that you might not buy on your own, right? And I think that's one of the things that, I find that I try to break away from, is that typically I'll end up smoking or doing things, and this is true in any pursuit, that's comfortable, right? Like, oh, I just want this because I know what it's going to be like, and that's what we want. We're always trying to avoid the bad, and by trying to avoid by our aversion to, in our quest to avoid the bad, we end up just staying with what we know, which can be just kind of middle of the road. So I like to try to find a way to try to get more out there. And sometimes you just want what's familiar. Like last Saturday, I just wanted that familiar flavor of Roma Craft. I didn't want to have to try something else. I didn't want to have to experiment. I just want something that I can rely upon to sit back, listen to the podcast, have a fire, and just, right? That's sometimes that's all you want, right? And I get enough of like experimentation with this Thursday night cigar. All right, so let's see here. One of the ones I was kind of surprised with, and evidently I found out later that I did review this in a previous year, was a cigar that Tony was always like, oh, man, you should try the Diesel vintage. I think even George is like that. You should try the Diesel. I was like, Diesel? My thought about Diesel is always like negative. Like it always goes straight to negative. Like Diesel, that's dumb. Why would I ever smoke that? That's stupid. Right? Again, we're back to the whole like, I'm trying to avoid the bad, so I think Diesel is bad, so therefore I won't smoke it. Right? So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. So they said to try the Diesel Vintage Maduro. Is that right? Where'd it go? Diesel Vintage Natural Robusto. Natural, not Maduro. Robusto, not Maduro. And we did that we did that back in October. Where is it? If I can find it. Oh, here it is. Diesel Vintage Natural Robusto. Got 83.25 back in October. Which is, not, I mean, that's not like, 90, but, 80, you're in the 80s. That's some solid smoking, right? You're in good company. Like, for example, 83.25 is tied with the Aladino Corojo number 4, right? So that's also 83.25. The Brick House, Connecticut is just under that at 82.75, right? And then it's just behind, what was it just behind? It's just behind the EP Carrillo Last Call. So, good performances and from really good quality cigars, and I'm going to presume that if you go to other sources for your cigar reviews, like these scores are going to be a lot higher on those sites. So, could be all right. Man, this has got nice smoking. It's just the overall smoke is very enjoyable. What else do we have here? Oh, so one of the ones that I thought would be a lot better, that was just a little bit better than the Diesel, is where is it? Was this cigar, and this is a pretty old cigar. Like I've been buying cigars for a long time, so I'm a big fan of Tatuaje, right? Big fan of Tatuaje. I've been smoking Tatuaje since the end of 2024 when Marvin introduced me to it, because Marvin was like Pete's number 6 account in America. And I was in Honolulu back in December 2024, hanging out at my friend Frank's house. And so Marvin comes over. We're all cigar guys, right? So Marvin said, hey, I got this new cigar. Why don't you try it? So we tried it. Man, killer cigar. God, it was so good. It was so good. It was called, that particular cigar was the original Tatuaje Kohonu. Man, which I still is, they sell it now, I think it's the Kohonu 2003. And if you can find it, I think it's still a very, really enjoyable, great cigar to have. And when I see it at a store, a lot of times I will smoke that. So if they actually have it at Tobacco Leaf tomorrow night, I'm going to probably buy one. But so one of Pete's passions is wine. Like he's super into wine. And if you're familiar with the wines that he's into, he's really into like the stuff from Saint-Emilion, like all of the Bordeaux. He's really a Bordeaux. I don't know if he's a right or left. I don't know Bordeaux. I don't know Bordeaux at all. I just know a little bit. Saint-Emilion sounds really great. Like I sound like I know what I'm talking about. And when I talk to girls, that's all I say. I like to drink Saint-Emilion. But that's it. If you ask me more, like, what do you think about this? Oh, yeah, that's for peasants. That's for peasants. Right? But really, I'm drinking more pedestrian stuff like Côte d'Aron's and stuff from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, right? And Châteauneuf is beautiful. I love Châteauneuf. I love the Rhone region wines. I just love that soft character, right? So anyway, Pete's really into that. And Pete is really into this idea of single vintage, right? So you go to these wineries, and
They have their own vineyards, and everything comes with that vineyard. They're not buying grapes for at least for their cuvee or their Grand Crus. They're not buying like grapes from other farms, right? That's just ridiculous. They're buying their perfect grapes from that year in that wine in that bottle. And so Pete wanted to do something like that. So he started working with a farm in, I think, in Nicaragua, where they're sourcing all the tobacco for the cigar from this farm. So the fillers, the binder tobacco, and the wrappers all come from a single farm. And he released, and from that, and it all come from a single year. And he released that as a vintage cigar that they called the L'Esprit du Vérité. And I have this one. It's a 2009 Robusto that is really like it's really, to me, when he announced it, I was like, man, I need to get some of these because I think it's just an interesting thing to do, and it correlates to what I do in coffee. Like we work with farms, and I like the idea of like single origin coffees from farms. So for me, there's a lot of like symbiosis there, a lot of parallels. My problem is that unlike wine and unlike cigars, coffee does not age. Like it's just not something you age. Like you get a 2009 coffee, you don't want to be drinking it in 2025, right? That's just ridiculous. But I had one left of this 2009 Robusto, and we smoked it, and that was back in June, and we got 83.75. So not the highest score. Like I was hoping to be like really like amazing score. It's good. It's very good. It's a very good cigar. 83.75, still very good. Lower end of very good, but still very good. Just not like I was really hoping to be gangbusters. I was like, man, I want it to be like, whew, like man, we're into it. But what can you do, man? What can you do? Tony says, which rank better, the natural or the Maduro at $9 price tag? You know what? We did not do the Maduro this year. So let's see. Did we do the Maduro before? I will look here. In 2024, did we do the diesel? Okay, so we did one in 2024, November 2024. However, it does not say in my note here on the spreadsheet whether or not it was the natural or the Maduro. Let's presume it was the Maduro, 87.75 versus 83.25 this year. So perhaps, and that kind of bears scrutiny in some respect, because I think that I would probably trend towards Maduros more than I would towards naturals. So perhaps. And of course, one thing to consider when it comes to scores of any of this, in any pursuit, is that everything is time specific, meaning that, you know what, you smoked this cigar today and it performed this way in this moment. Tomorrow, it could have been a totally different experience. Anything could be different. Environment, the mood, the way your palate senses things can all be different. So I would never really hold a score as like the ultimate example of all the cigars that they make of that type, right? It could be very different. And then year to year, you know, tobacco is a crop. So every year the crop is different. And then they have to process it. So they have to grow it. And the growing seasons have a tremendous impact on the quality of the tobacco, right? The way that tobacco, how much sunlight it's getting, where it is in the valley, and how much sunlight, and what's the soil condition, how much minerals it's getting, is going to affect the way that is. And when did they plant it? How was the weather? How did they harvest it? How did they hang it in the barns? How much wind was coming through the barns while it was drying? And then they take it and put it into pilons, and then they start to ferment it. How was the fermentation? How long did they do it? Did they turn it over enough? And then how did they store? Then they put it into the degassing room where they take the ammonia. They let it, emit the ammonia. That's a byproduct of the fermentation process, and that dissipates. So if they didn't evacuate it well, that's going to affect the flavor of the tobacco. And then how did they store it? And then when they wanted to use it, did they have to rehydrate it? How did they handle it? How did they blend it? How did they cut it? How did they roll it? How did they do everything to it? So God knows, like 1 year, one cigar cannot not necessarily tell you how all of them will be. It gives you an indication. Hopefully, if they're really truly masters of the craft and really have high levels of quality control, they can have great consistency year to year. Which is probably why you pay a lot of money for really high quality cigars. like it's definitely a well hydrated cigar. So I feel like I'm having trouble now at this very moment. Like I feel like when I'm puffing on it, I feel like it's going to go out. Like I want to hit it with the heat. And there's a little bit of an off flavor now from that. I think there's this point where it's kind of part of the burn is dying, and as I'm puffing on it, it's trying to cycle through and maybe get relit. So there's parts of that are probably out where the air is flowing through, and that acridity from that burned tobacco that's no longer burning is coming through a little bit. Like, yeah, I need to relight. Like it's not combusting well. So let us. It's a little bit better. I can hear that my propane tank is going to run out soon. The burner makes a different sound when it starts to get low. The flame starts to flutter, and you start to hear this noise. Olu says that I've been surprised by many Privada cigars, even the Farm Road one. That's the one that was the subscription that I used to be part of. Yeah, I think they make some really interesting stuff, and you know, if we look at some of the scores, like if I look at some of the scores from this past year with some of these Privada cigars, I mean, we're talking like the highest rated one was an 87. So we got 87, 86.75, 85.5. 85, 83.75, 76.5. 76 would be the lowest one, which was the Duncan Smokin cigar. So the Duncan Smokin and the Runaway Felix were the lower ones in the 70s. And then we've got the Privada Montenegro Batista at 83.75. Then the Privada Colada Duarte, that was at 85. And then one of my favorites, just because I love the character that they used, the Privada Cigar Club Yellow Bird, which is the Big Bird style. That was we did back April 3rd, and that was 85.5. So you know that wasn't the highest. The highest one was the higher than that was 86.75 with the Blue Mountain Catch a Fire. And then the highest of all of the Privadas that we reviewed last year was back in February 13th, which was it was cigar I think they did in collaboration with a place called Archive Cigar in Japan. And it was their Highland Maduro, which got a total score of 87. So, I mean, 87. Like, in our world of scoring, 87, man, is super respectable. Like, actually, if I look at it here, like, above that 87 from Privada, we start to get into, like, more exclusive kind of cigars, right? So, and you know, one of my favorite cigars, like I mentioned to you earlier, like last Saturday, I went into the cigar shop and I bought the Castillo de Murcia from Romacraft. And we actually reviewed that here on this show back a year ago on January 9th. So I ended up at Capitol back then and I bought a box. And I remember buying the box because I was like, okay, 20 count box, good, let me buy that. I told Tony, the manager, I said, hey, let me buy a box. He rang it up, he told me the price. I was like, what? How much? Actually, I didn't even do that. I did that all internally because I had the phone and I was kind of like, he's like, this is the price. He's like, he read out the price and I was like, eh. And I just swept the phone. But really, I was like, holy crap. What the hell? I thought it was half that price. It turns out it's like a double pack of 20, so it's 40 cigars. And I was like, oh God. I mean, I smoked the hell out of those cigars after this review, right? I mean, that box was gone months ago. But the Castillo de Murcia, like, and that's one thing I say, like, the Castillo de Murcia was one of my most favorite cigars this past year, along with a couple other cigars. But I smoked a lot of those. I did 40 of those, 45 probably by now. And and that to me is the interesting thing is that my other favorite cigar that you guys all know is that the Revenge by Chromacraft, the Intemperance B821 Revenge, box pressed Robusto. The Murcia is a box pressed Robusto as well, which I kind of like that size. I like that. But the way their flavors are, they don't. You would think that my favorite cigar would be this high scoring cigar, but they're never the highest scoring. So I love the high scoring cigars, but the ones that I like that I gravitate towards on a regular basis never seem to be that highly rated. Like for example, when we did the Revenge a couple years ago, when did we do the Revenge? We did the Revenge. No, we didn't do it in 2024. Did we not do it? I know we've done it. Maybe it was 2024. Anyway, I can't find it at the moment. But basically, all the aromas that I like, right? Like that's looking back here through the aromas. Like the Maquette Lightweight Heavy, 84 points. What else do we have here? The Volstead Noble Experiment Craft and Temperance we did back in July 23. That was 86 points. The Cunquahanario, which is a cigar that I really, really enjoyed, 87.25. So we're talking about cigars that don't really get like 90 plus. But I totally like them. And the Castillo Murcia was another one that got 86 points, right? So for me, that seems to be like the 86, 87 range for the cigars that I gravitate towards on a very regular basis. That's really where I seem to be like really in tune with. Maybe I just can't afford the other ones. That's also another thing. Tony says it tracks. We're talking about the diesel vintage Maduro Robusto. He says it tracks because it's a San Andreas Maduro, which is definitely more in your wheelhouse. Yeah, I totally will agree with you on that. Tony says 300 hands. And then George says, you seem to be smoking it slower than normal. I mean, it's... Oh, yeah, you're right. It is 9:21. Well, we probably didn't start till later because we were making the coffee. And yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot, and I'm enjoying it. And maybe you're right. Maybe that's why it's going on, because we're not smoking it as hard. And flipping with the papers. Yeah, I hear you on that. Give me more data to work with, and I don't smoke so quickly. That's probably true. That's probably true. Tony says, I mean, they have a Kellner-Mirfeld collaboration called the Hupito, which was outstanding. Ooh, that might be something too. You mean that's from Diesel, did that? We might have to look at that. And maybe you're right there, George. Now that I think about it, I'm spending a long time talking about things and stopping a lot between puffs. So that definitely will have an impact. So maybe we won't necessarily consider the relight very heavily. George says he's moving on to the Padron 5000 for a second cigar with a long branch bourbon. Nice, man. And Rusty says, Rusty, good, man. How are you? Good. Happy New Year to you. What's the weekend special at the restaurant that you're making? Oh, LCA Privada did the Mirfeld Kellner collab. I mean, I am enjoying this. Like, this is not... So... Oh, there it is. Dead. My tank is out. We will see how long I can withstand the cold without the heat. I don't know what I'm saying. Who knows? Who knows? That's what I was saying. The cigar. So the cigar... You know, some cigars, they have like really distinct flavors, really distinct. It's just not that distinct. It's very like smooth, silky, almost with a slight creaminess to it. But the blend is really is really that, a blend, like a really smooth, well put together blend. Like it's just a luxuriant smoking cigar. Like I'm smoking, I'm not even thinking about it. It's just such a pleasure to smoke. And if you're spending $200 on a cigar, it should be quite good. But if you're also spending $200 cigar, and you're thinking that, oh man, it should have like robust notes and all of this like fanfare and drums and taiko and all of this happening, that's not this cigar. This cigar is not like that at all. This cigar is smooth, composed. It's just lovely to smoke. Like it's really just lovely. The body is kind of very like low medium, but it's just such an elegant smoke. I'm gonna give a 9 for the body for the first third, and I'm gonna give a 9 for the flavor because it's just that well composed. And oh no, I am not dressed well enough for this. I gotta go get the tank, another tank. I got another tank outside. That is right now not easy to access for whatever reason. I wasn't thinking well about it, so I have to move some things to get out the door. Be right back. One moment, unless I break something, like myself. Oh, that's not it. I have been pounding through the propane this past couple weeks because it's just been so cold. Propane right now at the hardware store is $4.79 a gallon. But you know what, this tank, I put labels on the tanks so that I know when I started using them. This one's not too bad. I started the tank that we just finished on December 30th. So that's pretty good. All right, let me just switch this tank and then we will be back in action. You know what I really wish I had on these tanks is like a better valve. Like luckily this has this little hand thingy on it, so it's easier to put on, but the problem is it's just a piece of plastic covering the nut. So unless you hold it just right, it will slip off the nut, which makes it infinitely difficult to tighten. Okay, almost there. Okay, back on. All right, we're back in action. Ha! Yeah, it's just cold. It's just cold. I miss the warm days. So yeah, so there we go. 9s across the board for today, and for the first third. So where do we leave off on our cigar adventure here? What else was the highlights of our cigar smoking this past year? Oh yeah, so like I was saying, so that the highest ranked Privado was the one from Archive Cigars in Japan. That turned out to be 87. So that was really a nice smoke. Really, really enjoyable, I think. At least I think so, because it was a long time ago. Yeah, here it is. And they had the little Archive Cigar band on it. So then from here, I guess we can go look at the top ones, because now we're going to be moving into the top 7 cigars of 2025. And what do we have next? So this would be cigar number... George says, I must say you've decreased by half in terms of weight. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I am half the man I used to be. Actually, it's not quite half. Like I need to go a lot more before I get to half. But I gotta say, it's been a challenge in that, I've had to buy new pants, clothes. Like I have these shirts that are really nice that are now like billowy shirts. So I've been wearing like a lot of vests and sweaters to like use the shirts so that they don't, but you can't see how billowy. Anyway, so number 7 is something that we got from Stolen Thrones. Actually, this is a cigar that was gifted to me by my friend Marvin Chang. Marvin, who was the guy that introduced me to Tatuaje, as well as the guy that took me with him to the Drew Estate. And we had a lot of adventures over the years, and he was in town for the Preakness in May, called me up. And he's also friends with Raul at Tobacco Leaf, because one year he was in the area. He's actually a wine guy. Like that's what he does. He's like a sommelier, but he's a wine expert. And he's an expert of all things gourmet. So one year he called me up. He's like, "Hey man, I'm doing a tasting in Virginia, and I'm flying out of Baltimore. Let's meet up for a cigar before I fly home." I was like, "All right, I'll come meet." He said, "Where can we go to Cigars?" Like, "Let's go to Tobacco Leaf. It's in Jessup. Here's the address. Come meet me there. I'll be there whatever time you want me to be there." And so we're hanging out there, and that was when I really got to know Raul as well. Is that we just started talking and hanging out, and then at the trade shows we would always hang out together. And then, but he called me up. He's like, "Hey, I'm in town for the Preakness." I was like, "Awesome." I said, "I know you're going to be busy with the Preakness, but let me know when you have time to have a cigar." So he called me up. He's like, let's go see Raul." So I went down to Raul's. And he was in town as the guest of, I can't remember his name, but the guy that owns Stolen Throne. And Stolen Throne Cigars is a place that's owned by a guy that has a cigar shop down somewhere in Virginia. Nice guy, very Texas looking. He looks like he's from Texas. Western jeans, Western shirt, Western boots, Western hat. Turns out he's from Baltimore. I was like, "What? From Baltimore?" And he moved down there. A really nice guy. And I just can't remember his name at the moment. And I've related to you about Stolen Thrones. We've had it on the show before. And Stolen Thrones is a cigar company that started fairly recently, the last several years. And their first one that I ever had was their Crook of the Crown Robusto. And I just love that cigar. And I've told this story before, but I remember I smoked a few of them, and I was like, "Man, this is some killer stuff." So I told Raul, "Man, when you get some more, let me know." So he got some more this one year, a couple years back. I got it in February, so I bought a bundle, 20 cigars. Started smoking them. Man, terrible, just terrible. They were not to the level of the original batch that I smoked. But I kept at it over the rest of the year. By the time we got to November, I was down to the last 2 or 3 cigars. And that's when they finally became alive. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the flavor that I've been waiting for. This is what I've been hoping for all year long." And I smoked the last 2, and I was like, "This is the worst." Now, since that time, every time I've smoked their cigars, they have been a lot better. So I think whatever process they were able to develop has them now delivering cigars that are ready to go, rather than having to have this fallow period. So the number 7 cigar is a cigar that Marvin gave to me from the Stolen Thrones series. And Stolen Thrones, for this year, since it was the 150th running of the Preakness, they created a cigar for that honor. And my cigar has struggled a little bit. Maybe because I went to go set the... And that got 87.5. I don't know what happened to the label, to the band. There was a band on it, and I thought I saved it, but I didn't save it. But 87.5, so that was really nice. And then tied for that also, I guess it's 6th place if it's tied for the next one. And the next one, is that right? Oh, no, 87.5, that was the Preakness. Okay, the next one, which I guess, so that is number 6. Yeah, that was 6, because these next 2 are the 5th cigar, because they're tied at 87.75. And that turned out to be the Roma Craft Intemperance BA21, the AWS. We did this one back in December of 2025, December 18th. So 87.75 of the Intemperance. So again, the Romas tend to be around 86, 87 points in my world. which I like. The Revenge, I just got a message from, actually it's been a couple months, maybe back in November. Sean Coleman was like, hey man, I talked to Mike Rosales, and they're finally starting to do production on the Revenge again, so we're gonna get some boxes for you. I was like, thank you, dude. I was like, thank you, man. You let me know. I will come down and buy some. I was like, ah. And it turns out they hadn't made the cigar in 2 years. So it's been at least 2 years of like fallowness. I was like, man, this has been a long road. I mean, it's just so smooth and so well composed. But it's different. Like I've talked before about the Mirfel Mare and how beautifully elegant and like delicious it is. This is so different than that. It's not even close. It's very different. The experience is totally different. More creamy, more smooth, maybe more in what you would consider to be a classic Cuban. Like it's not. What's the one that everybody likes? The one with Bolivar. It's not the Bolivar. It's not that punchy strength. It's got a little bit more of that kind of smoother than a Monte Number 2, right? The Monte Number 2 is one of the most beautifully elegant cigars that I've ever had. When it's really great, and then when it's not really great, it's just horribly terrible and not really worth buying and smoking. Just a fallow hollow of itself. But this one is like beyond the best Monte Number 2 that I've had. All right, so tied with the Intemperance, AWS, is something from Fleur de Coissier. Their Lumina, we did the Lumina back in April, and that got 87.75, the Fleur de Coissier. That was actually kind of nice. It's one of those cigars for me, the Fleur de Coissier, I never really think about it. Kind of like, just never think too much about it. Brian says, Sunbelt is charging $4.25 a gallon for propane. If there's, yeah, actually, that must be their newest price. So I called Sunbelt the other day, and I was like, "Hey man, how much are your gallon? How much for your propane?" He was like, "Yeah, $4.19." I was like, $4.19. I haven't sat down to calculate it, but so it's 60 cents less than what I'm paying at Ace Hardware. But the difference with the Ace, and I don't know if they do this at Sunbelt. Maybe you might know this. But at Ace Hardware, if I fill 5 tanks, I get a free fill. And here's an interesting hack. So like, I use these 20-pound propane tanks for the heaters. And if I burn it all the way down, it takes about 4.4 gallons to refill. But when it's really cold, we also run them on the roasters, the big roasters. And I've been running 20-pound tanks on the roasters, and there's a bit of an issue with that because it's pulling so much gas that it starts to freeze the lines, so it slows down a lot. And the last time I froze one of the tanks, I had to get it refilled, and they only were able to put a 1.3 gallons into it. So if I fill up 1.3 gallons, I still get a free fill stamp. But that's an unusual thing. But let's say we do 4.4 gallons. So I still have to sit down and figure out. So 4.4 gallons. If we did 22 gallons at 479. So if we 20, let's calculate whatever that is. 22 gallons at 479, which means that we get an extra 4.4 gallons for free. What does that bring the total to? I don't know if that brings it less than the 419, 425. I will probably calculate that tomorrow morning before I go to refill these 2 tanks. But Tony says, at least you're not buying pants at the rate Nate is. A new size every 3 weeks. Man, I should be doing that. But you know what? I'll be honest. I'm not very good at this whole like eating well thing. Like I'm on the drugs, so it's like, oh, if I want an ice cream, I'll go get an ice cream, which is a setback, right? But I'm really bad at that. And then we had the Christmas time. Oh, terrible. Oh, so nice. This is really nice. Okay, so let's move on. Next up with the cigar number 4 for the year, we're going back, and there's kind of a recurring theme this year for some reason. Now, one of the things about Marvin that's really interesting is that Marvin's really an interesting guy. He works for a company called Arfield Winery, and I remember Richard Field back in the 90s was also a gourmet guy, and he started this gourmet wine company, and Marvin eventually went to go work for him, and he basically got to run the company for Richard. And so when the larger local Hawaii grocery chain called Foodland decided to buy our field, he went to go work for them. But he still runs the whole gourmet program for Foodland through the Arfield Wine Company, which still exists under the Foodland brand. And they usually have little kiosks inside the Foodlands. And they sell all kinds of cheeses, wines, with alcohols, liquors, and cigars. And since Marvin is a psycho who loves the best, he works with not just cigar makers, but also distilleries, and I believe he even works with wineries to create special releases for Arfield Winery that are exclusive to the state of Hawaii. Right? And one of the most famous ones that he did was one called the T110 that he did with Pete many years ago. This is the T110, if I remember correctly, they did it probably 2010. I've actually never had one. I've been meaning to tell him, hey man, I need to have one of those. But so he does all these exclusives. So he tends to do exclusives. He's done exclusives with Dion at Illusione. He's done it with, of course, with Pete several times. And most recently, this past year, he was doing some exclusives with the guys from Stolen Throne the last couple of years. And so the next one is the 2025 Hawaii exclusive, what they call the Ula. The Ula in Hawaiian means red, which is why the label is red. Ula 2025. And so Marvin was like, man, you got to try this. I was like, all right, I tried it. So we tried it, and we smoked that back in September after I had gotten, back, after we took the hiatus from my disease-ridden summer. And we gave that a 90.25. So now we're finally breaking into the 90s. So 90.25 for the Stolen Throne Ula. So that was really a nice smoke. That was great smoke. And then surprisingly enough, so he gave me 2 cigars that day. Well, actually 3. The Preakness 150 and then these 2 cigars. Or maybe I bought the Preakness 150. I don't remember. Anyway, whatever the case may be, he gave me this other one, which was the previous year's cigar, what they called the Kiave. And the Kiave is actually a wood from Hawaii. And some of the guys that some of the things that I've written on the web that I read about were like, the guys were speculating, they're probably using Kiave wood, because Kiave is a particular type of wood in Hawaii, very popular in Hawaii for cooking with, right? So Kiave wood's very popular in Hawaii, there's a lot of it, so they use it a lot for wood. And if you're like doing what we call smoked meat, which is kind of like you take beef and you smoke it, they use Kiave for barbecue. You use Kiave in the emus that you're making traditional Hawaiian food with. And I like the flavor of Kiave. So the closest thing we have in the mainland United States is something called mesquite, which is the closest thing. Mesquite's a little bit more harsh than Kiave. Kiave is a little bit softer in flavor. But I use mesquite a lot because I just like that it mimics that flavor. So, but Kiave so I had to call up Marvin. I was like, hey man, is this true? You actually put some kind of Kiave in? He's like, no. I forgot what he told me, but if you watch it, you can see it. But this cigar got a little bit higher than the Ula. The Ula got 90.25. We gave this one 90.75. So very nice smoke. If you can get some of these, it's definitely worth. I mean, pretty much any of these in the top 7, or at least of these that are 90 and above, definitely worth trying to seek out. And then after that, we only have one more cigar, the final cigar of the year. That was number 2. This is number 1. And this one, I gotta be honest, I was a little bit surprised. And going, if I think back on the year of smoking cigars, does not really come to mind like as the best cigar of the year. And it easily is the best. And I remember early on in the show, I said that the top cigar this year is the highest scoring cigar ever on our show. So this is the highest scoring cigar. And I met the owner. I've known of the owner for a long time and for quite a while, but I really got to meet him a little bit better and talk to him more when we were in September when George had his 70th birthday at Capitol. you know, you remember the episode we were there and all these people came, or was it November, or whatever it was. But he was telling me, oh yeah, you know, Pete's going to be there and it'd be a nice time. And I was like, all right, cool. And then it was kind of crazy because, you know George, and George is always talking to me. And George has been in the business for a long time, right? And been amongst the greatest like people in the business. So it's really it's quite interesting. And I found some old Cigar Aficionado magazines the other day. And I was like, let me just look it up. And there it is. Director of Business Management, I think, or Business Development, George Brightman. I said, well, there it is, of course, of course. But so George does know pretty much everyone in the business. And I know some people always think, oh, you know, he talks a lot about things, and does he really have the chops? And I tell you, man, I remember I was standing outside. I don't know if it was, I think this is before we started the live stream that night. And I remember standing there, I was standing outside just kind of hanging out a little bit. And here comes this dude, this short guy. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, holy shit, that's Carlito Fuente Jr. And here's Carlito. It was right, October, I think it was October, because a lot of people went to Dortmund, Germany for the Intertabac trade show. And it just had finished like that week. And so people were flying around and going other places or whatever. And Carlito knew the party was happening. So he flew to DC to be there that night. So I got to talk to Carlito, and I got to talk to the owner of this cigar, which at this very moment that I'm about to say his name, it's escaping me for whatever reason. I'm really bad at names sometimes. Michael Herklotz, right? So Michael was there. We were talking, and he's like, but Michael Herklotz makes a cigar called the Ferio Tego. And it came out this past year, and a lot of people were really excited about it. So I was able to get one. I mean, it's not too hard to get. They do have in the capital. And we got the Suma Toro. And this one got 96.5 points during our smoking of it back in February 20th, 2025. I mean, it was like, man. And maybe that's why I don't really recall it, because it was such a long time ago now. But I mean, this cigar beats everything else. Everything else we've done on this show in past years. Like the highest ranking cigar in 2024 was the Don Pepin Garcia 20th Anniversary Corojo 99 Oscuro, which we did December 5th, 2024, and that got 95 points. I mean, 95, that's a hell of a high score to have on our show. Like, just crazy. It's the next highest scoring cigar to that was at 90.75 for the La Flor Dominicana 30th anniversary. Even the Prometheus God of Fire Series B 2019 Robusto got 90 points, right? Less. Then if we go back to 2023, of course, the highest ranking score for that was the Mir Master Blend Churchill at 93.5 points. The Pepin Garcia 20th Anniversary Toro was 92.25. And that was it for those. And that was the first year that we actually, the 2022 we did scoring, and the highest that year, which was of course a shorter year, I think, 44 cigars. The highest score in 2022 was 88.25 with the Davidoff Year of the Rabbit 2022. So I don't know if it's a testament of cigars overall are improving in the world, or just the fact that maybe we're getting better quality cigars in the show. I don't know what that really means, but certainly 96.5 for the Ferio Tego Suma was like hella cigar. I mean, hella cigar. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, next time I go to Capitol, I'm going to have to buy another one because I need to relive it. And this has gone out again. It's definitely a well-hydrated cigar. And I think that's probably a part of what's not fueling it, but maybe part of what's tamping on the burn is that it is still very nicely, it's a very hydrated cigar. George Shem says that was gifted to us at Capitol when we went down to get together. Oh, okay. I can no longer remember some of these details. That was February already? Man. Time just goes by so fast. Like I remember that day we were down there. That was a good time. Good time. Good to hang out with all of you. I'm going to take the bands off because I don't want to burn the bands. I want to preserve the bands. Okay, that's still too early to take off. Man, we still got a way to go. There's 10 minutes left. But this is not 10 minutes worth of cigar. We're gonna keep going until we're finished. Like there it is. Even though we had a little bit of a flame out, relit, man, the flavor's back already. Like just smooth. And I want to say complex, but I can't describe it as complex because it's just such a smooth blend. It's just so smooth and so luxuriant and so creamy. Like it's low in the cream, but just so smooth. This smooth smoking. Like, man, it's a totally, like, honestly, I don't recall what the Ferrotega was like, but I do remember the Mire Mare because that was just like what I thought was like incredible smoke. And of course, the 20th anniversary Don Pepin was a great smoke, but like this one is like so different than the Mare. Just more creamy, more smooth. The elegance is probably about the same, but man, President's Day weekend, 2025 at Cap. Oh man, weren't we talking about doing something for President's Day weekend again? Oh yes, we were. So George has provided us with some very nice cigars over the years. Thank you, George. Appreciate that. I appreciate this. This is just lovely. But like I said earlier tonight, is that this cigar has got, now it's got a little bit more oomph. Not even oomph. It's just so smooth. Like I feel here in the tummy a little bit more robustness, meaning that maybe it's a little bit heavier than I'm describing, or that I'm experiencing. Like sometimes when you smoke cigars, you get that ill feeling. You're like, oh, I feel ill now. Like I feel right now, I'm starting to feel like maybe I'm gonna get that tonight. Maybe it's gonna be a little bit too heavy for me. But it hasn't been heavy. It doesn't have that weightiness that you have with cigars, right? Like when we did the Payam from Capital, when we did the event with Davidoff, he gave me one of the Churchill, the late hour Churchills from Davidoff. Man, that thing was like, it was just slaying me. It was just slaying. It was so heavy and like just robust and like full. This is not like that. Like, you think when you get these expensive cigars, it should be like this, and just, this is so not like that. So unexpected. Or so different than what we're used to. Like maybe what I would think about is like when I think about when I'm in Europe, smoking cigars in Europe, and you're buying Cubans. It's like classic, elegant, smooth, complex, but without being in your face complex. Like it's just pleasure, just a pleasure to smoke. And what's one thing, like, it's not too heavy. Like there's some cigars are really heavy. Like one of the ones that I think is super heavy when it first came out was was it 2019? 2018 or 2019, Roma Craft released their La Campagna de Soberano. Was that right? No, it wasn't called that then, that year. It was the one that came in a box that had a steel thing around it. And I remember we were at Bud's house that night that I smoked the first one, and I was like sitting there in a chair smoking the cigar, and it was so like, it was just power and strength and just slamming you at all, like in the face, just hitting you the whole time. And I remember I'm sitting there smoking it, getting pummeled. And it was so heavy, so strong, that as I was puffing on it, like this, I was actually backing away from the smoke because I was like, God, this is just too much for me, man. It's just like, and the not the Neanderthal, but there's, is it the Neanderthal? Yeah, the Neanderthals, the ones when they first came out, they were really flat on the cap, and the big thing Skip was like, you need to use a razor blade to cut it, don't really need to. And they used to package it with a razor blade to cut it. Like everybody's like, that's like a super powerful cigar. Like that was nothing compared to this one that released that year. Like that was just like killing me. It was killing me. So the Churchill was kind of like that, right? The late hour Churchill. It was just pounding on me. I was like, God, this. Maybe it's because we smoked a whole bunch of cigars by that point, but man, I remember I had an hour drive home and I was just like miserable. I was like, God, am I gonna make it home? Because this is terrible. Like yeah, definitely I'm starting to feel more of that strength is starting to develop. It's taken all this time. Hour and a half of smoking, just and now we're starting to feel like it's heavier. Like it's building. It's like a slow wave building on you. Right? Right, so that's pretty much all of the cigars that we have from 20. I mean, let me look here through if there's any other ones that I thought were really kind of interesting to note. I mean, they were. I mean, there's nothing. I can't say that we smoked anything that was bad. Some were disappointing. Some were okay, good. You know, they're just good. They're all good. None of them are bad. There's our Maestranza. Oh, the Tatuai Monster. We did that back in February. I don't remember what monster it was. 8575. Not bad. Not bad. Oh, then we have here's the yellow bird. Oh yeah, that's right. In November, well, speaking of the Escurio, we did the Escurio, which was I was trying to smoke that cigar to get a better flavor for it, so that when I figured out what coffee we're going to pair for it for the event, that did pretty well. That got 85.5, Davidoff Escurio. That's a nice cigar. If you want to try that, that's worth exploring. We also did another Cuban this year, the Punch Paraíso Petit Robusto, which is a Cuban back in November, and that got 85.5. So again, nice cigars. Oh, here's another cigar that I got from Dave Knopf. I think Dave Knopf gave me this one. And this is the Tatuai 20th Anniversary Grand Merveille. Man, I smoked the hell out of these this year. Like, I finished the box and I just smoked all the way through. Again, this is one of the cigars that I smoked a lot of. And like the Roma Crafts, still a very good cigar, just not in this like 90 plus category. 85 points, but super nice to smoke. And I really find, at least for myself, I really tend to gravitate towards the Tatuai profile as well as the Roma Craft profiles. Not all the Roma Craft profiles, like the Aquitaine's a bit too much for me. Like the new Pennsylvania Broadleaf Cro-Magnon, I do like that a lot. But that Intemperance line with the Ala wrapper, oh man, that just speaks to me in such a strong, strong way. What else do we have here? Colada Duarte, that was good. Oh, here's another one that also was gifted to me by Dave Knopf. This is the Tatuai, the El Triunfador Robusto. They released these after not releasing them for many, many years. And the Triunfador used to only be a Lancero shape. Then they started releasing them again with the Robusto, and he gave me a box of those, and that turned out to be another one, 85 points. So again, I'm really in that kind of range of like 85 to 87 seems to be where I like it. This is 184, the Blackbird Glitch Toro, which we did back in the early part of the middle of December, December 11th. That got 84 points. That was pretty good, I think. The Privada Batista from February turned out to be, what do we say, 83.75. We did that Tatuaje. Oh, here, the Roma Craft EMH Fomorian. That was a little bit lower in our scale. The Fomorian is the one with the green, the Candela wrapper. I think Candela wrappers are interesting cigar, and I've always thought they were kind of cool. All right. Huh. I was kind of wondering if this was going to happen. So, turns out I don't know if I mentioned this earlier before we started, because when we started, we didn't have the microphones running, and part of the reason was because I forgot to recharge everything, and the phone I had been using all day, so it wasn't fully charged, so we did run out of power, and now we're back, so hopefully that resolves it. My apologies on that. So I got I was Even my battery pack, I had to recharge, so it's been recharging this whole time. So I just had to slap back on, and that's what's powering it up now. I don't know where I got cut off. Let me know where I got cut off, and if I need to recap some things, I can recap. But like I was saying, so the Fomorians I think is really nice. That's something I might get somewhat soon. Maybe I might go back for that. What else do we have in here? There's that Diesel Vintage, the Corojo Reserva, the Brick House. Oh, the Candela. Okay, yeah, the Candela. So, like I said, the Candela. So I had my first one was the 858 from Arturo Fuente. I don't know if we got that part. And then later I was able to find Fuente released something called, they had the Double Chateau Fuente, which is their larger cedar wrap cigar. They released that as a Candela. And then, but I haven't really seen too many. I mean, I don't know if you guys know. You guys probably know who else does Candela wrap cigars, but I'm interested to find more of those. The only one that I know now that really has a release is, and they typically do it on a yearly basis around this time of year, is Roma Craft with their EMH Fomorian. Man, still, this cigar, very, very nice. I see that it's just past 10 o'clock. Maybe the phone was like, okay, you're supposed to finish at this time. I held out long enough, and I can no longer give you any more juice. What else do we have here? Anything else? Buffalo 10. We did some Buffalo 10s. They were pretty good. They were enjoyable enough. 82, 81.5. Yeah, those are pretty much all the cigars we did this past year. So I gotta say, I do enjoy hanging out with you guys every week, or most of the weeks, and it's an honor for me that you take the time to hang out with me. I really appreciate that every week. So thank you very much. So barring any kind of disease again, hopefully we won't have any disease, we should be able to continue relatively unabated for the rest of the year. Or I'm saying that now at the very beginning of the year. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows what we have in store? But man, I tell you what, when I got ill after the July 3rd show, man, I was so mucked up. I was really, I've been hospitalized a couple times. One in 2013 and once in like 2021. Especially in 2013, I was hospitalized for like 33 days in a hospital. Man, it was brutal. But you know what? It never bothered me. Like I was like, not a big deal. I'll be out of here. But this time, when I was in the hospital this time, man, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I honestly did not know if I was going to make it. Like I did not have the confidence. I had a question. I was like, could this be the end? Gosh, that would have been disappointing. Oh, my goodness. I got to say, all of us are pretty much at the age now where we've lived a solid number of years. And I'm sure everyone I'm sure all of you have lost friends along the way, man. And I got to say, it's strange to think about that, and it's like, but I'm thankful that we're all here, man. I'm thankful every day. Every day I'm thankful that we're able to continue on when others have not been able to. Ram says, Illusion has very good Candela. I think it's I think I might have had that. I'm going to have to look for that next, see if they come out with it again. But, Illusion is made for, Dion works with Aganorsa to make their cigars. And Aganorsa is always very good. And, Arsenio did all the cigars for Dion. And I presume that I presume that the quality has been consistent since Eladio's passing. Arsenio's passing. I don't think I've had much Illusiones since that time. I'll have to retry some more. But, the nice thing that I enjoy about this is that, not only do we get to explore cigars together, but you guys are always like suggesting cigars that I'm always finding that I hadn't thought about or don't even consider, like the Diesel Vintage, or, both Rusty and Mum were always about that guy that Indian guy in New Jersey, the one that has the labeling that looks like Cohiba. Those are great cigars. When we were up in New Jersey last year, I stopped by that guy's boutique and like had a real nice time talking to him and like got a bunch of cigars to try from. Really nice stuff, really interesting stuff. So I appreciate that as well. I appreciate that a lot, actually. Tony says the LFD Candelas, particularly Lancero, are always tasty. Ooh, all right, we're gonna try that. Sarge Patel, that's right, Sarge Patel. Serge? Definitely there's more, God, it's not even weightiness, it's, you can feel it, right? Like I can feel it like a heaviness, but it's not a heaviness on the cigar, it's just a heavy buildup that suggests I could be ill. Like I remember one of the cigars that I got really, really ill was many years ago when I was still living in Honolulu. One of my friends, James Holman, ran a tobacco store called Tobaccos of Hawaii back then. James now lives in Ajo, New Mexico, and does a lot of work at the border with migrants. And I remember one time our whole group there, we were all going out to dinner. We were like, let's go out for dinner. We got to get a cigar dinner. Well, we couldn't smoke at the steakhouse. We went to a steak dinner, big steak. And we had a big dinner. We had massive dinner. Like, you know, back then we're eating crazy. So we're like massive dinner, like big steaks, you know, all this food. So totally full. And so we went to this one place to have a cigar. And James bust out a box of these Cubans. Like he was really known for having a Cuban connection, so he'd always bring in Cubans. He actually got pinched by the IRS or DEA or whatever it was for like importing Cubans at one point. Had to pay a fine or whatever. Much like Castro here in Baltimore got pinched, he got pinched. But this is before he got pinched, and he brought in all these cigars. And this one night he was like, I got some cigars for us. So he busted out a box of these. Oh no, what's the name of it? I can totally see the box. It was a Cuban box, big, huge, Magnum type cigars, like A cigars, right? The A style cigars. Sancho Panza, Corona Gigantes. Like these were massive cigars. And he's like, I got these Sancho Panzas. And we smoked them. Man, I was so ill. Like I was just like, I was laid out. Like I had a huge meal. Like, you know when you have like a big meal, like you know you're gonna have a cigar, you have a big meal, so you like have enough that stomach fortitude to withstand a heavy cigar. I mean, we could have eaten prime rib, and like I was totally like obliterated by the cigar. Like I was so like I was so ill. I went home and I was like lying in bed all night long, just like ill, just terrible, terrible. Sanj, there it is, Sanj Patel. Thank you, Mom. Thanks. It doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while you get a cigar and you just feel. And that's happened to me twice in the fall. That one time with the Churchill, the Davidoff late hour Churchill, and then it was a cigar that I smoked after that. Where was I? I think we at Tobacco Leaf. I was somewhere else where I had to drive another hour home. Like I'm always getting this past fall, I got ill twice, and always like when I have to drive like an hour home, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a long it's such a long drive when you're like feeling ill. You're like, man. Like it's not so bad when you're at a friend's house, like a buzz, and you're like you smoke something heavy and you feel ill. It's only like 10 minutes away, but man, when you got to drive an hour, it's like, oh my gosh. I'm actually heading down to. So next week is, oh gosh, what is next week? Today is the 8th. So yeah, so next week we will have our live stream on the 15th, but I'm heading down to Raleigh, North Carolina. One of my good friends, he's having his 70th birthday party that weekend, so he's having a big party. So he's like, come down. He's not a cigar guy, he's a coffee guy, but he's like, come down, we'll have a great time. I was like, all right, I'm coming down. He's like, I got an extra hotel room for you on the last night. I was like, because he's like, are you leaving Sunday? I was like, no, I don't know yet. Actually, I told him no, but I didn't know yet. I don't know. He's like, one of my buddies has a hotel till Mondays, but he's leaving Sunday, so you can have the extra room. I was like, oh, that'll save me some money. And I think he's staying at the nicer hotel where I'm not going to be staying. So I was like, okay, I could do that. So if you guys know any good cigar shops in the Raleigh-Durham area, let me know. I don't really know about cigar shops down there. I know coffee shops down there because my friends have coffee shops there. I haven't looked at cigar shops. I was looking the other day because, you know, I do the woodworking thing. So I'm like, oh, what are the woodworking shops in Raleigh? There's a place called Klingspor that's pretty popular. And there's a couple other places. I can't remember the name, but Klingspor was one of the ones because They're a little bit famous. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go check that out. So probably do some coffee in the morning, woodworking shops in the afternoon, and then do the party and cigars at night. Rusty says you need to make a super soigné wood binder-esque item for all the store ships. Oh, that is a good idea. You know, I went back in April. I went to a place outside of Philadelphia. So about a year ago, one of my good friends, Matt, was like talking about this furniture designer from the mid-century era, a guy by the name of George Nakashima. And he's like, you know George Nakashima? I was like, no idea who this guy is. He kept talking about it. Had no idea what he was talking about. Then finally I looked him up, and then I was talking to some other guys that I know in the woodworking world. They're like, one guy has like a Nakashima. His family has Nakashima pieces. I was like, Jesus, this guy. Who is that dude? He's out in the Bay Area. Then one of my other friends, his wife's family has Nakashimas. I was like, good Lord, man. I think theirs like worth $500,000 for a table. I was like, what? Crazy. Anyway, so I started learning about him. I was like, oh, very interesting. So I was like, oh, I want to go check out his work, because their workshop is in a place called New Hope, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia in the Huntington Valley. And evidently it's really difficult to get a ticket to get in to these tours. And they hadn't done tours since the pandemic. They just started them up in 2025. And so I looked it up one day and I was like, oh man, the next available tour was in September. And I was like, well, I should just buy that. So I waited on it for like a day or two, and then I went back online, and luckily they had one opening that had just opened up again in April. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna take that. $75 to get a tour. So I signed up. In April, I went down to go visit the place, George Nakashima. Beautiful work. Like if you like this mid-century style, like his work is just really just wonderful stuff. And he was, when you know how we have all this live edge, live edge tables and all this, he was kind of like the pioneer of that. Back then, he was doing these, what he calls it actually free edge, not live edge, but free edge, really beautiful stuff. And they had some books at their gift shop. They have a little gift shop there, and I was like, I'm going to buy these books. And this is what they call, I guess they call it their style book, their look book. That's their price list. But it's their lookbook, and it's kind of like their de facto catalog. And you can buy this, and they have, illustrations of their different, I probably have shown you this in previous, and stuff like that. So you can see what they kind of work they do. It's really, really well done. And they have, they also have a price list. So I grabbed one of the price lists, and, to give you an idea of like, let's say like, let's look here. Let me look here. I'll show you. Like the famous stuff that he makes is something called the Conoid chair. Here's the Conoid chair, right? I got to go tour it. I got to see them. And the nice thing about going to their place when the tour, you get to sit in everything. So I'm sitting in everything. I'm like, I got to sit in it and get a feel for it, right? So this chair, right? This is last year's price list. So it might have changed. Benches, cabinets, chairs. Okay, Conoid chair. Here's the price list for the Conoid chair. Conoid chairs. The base price for the Conoid chair is $4,500 for this chair. You want to buy this chair, it's going to start at $4,500 per chair. I was like, oh my God, man, that's crazy. Now, if you want to do like additions to it, like let's say you want to have one piece, right? Like let's say the seat. Like the seat, they'll assemble the seat from different from planks, and they'll assemble it and then carve it and make it. But if you want to have a solid piece of wood that's not joined together, they can do that. So on the Conoid chair, if you want to have a one piece, you're taking $4,500. To make it a one piece chair, you have to add another $800. If you want that chair to be figured, like wavy in the grain, you have to add another $1,600. Like, holy crap. So your chair, if you want the figured chair one piece, $6,100 starting. It's like, whoa, crazy. And it's going to take however many months. Now, George says, I may see you tomorrow at Tobacco. Come down tomorrow. I'll be there by 6. I should be there by 6. Cirillo's in town. He's like, let's go have a cigar. I was like, all right, I'm going to be there. So sometime around 6 or so. After 6. But this book, if you buy this there, it's like $35. So I bought one, $35. The reason I'm telling you this is because Rusty's talking about a wood binder. So there's an option for this book that you can buy there. And they have a walnut or any kind of wood slip cover for it. It's basically just a little hollow box that fits the book exactly. You slide it in. It's open on one end, closed on all the other sides. If you get the slip cover, the walnut slip cover, it includes the book, but it's $1,000. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't afford to even think about buying furniture in this place. So $75 to sit in all the chairs and fondle everything was definitely worth the money. And then I was talking to this one girl that I know who's a professor at the University of Maryland. And so George Nakashima passed away like in 1979. And he had a hell of a life. I think he worked for IMP for a while. He worked with all these people, and he did all this stuff. He had been interned. He had been incarcerated in Idaho during the war in the concentration camps, and that's really when he learned how to do the woodworking. But when he passed away, his daughter Mira took over, and Mira is the one that runs it today. And the work is still beautiful. Like everything there is really beautiful. But $1,000. I was like, man, I need to. So my slipcover will not, or the cover for these will not be $1,000. Yeah. So yeah, but back to your thing, George, about the dismissal. Yeah, I think we're going to be. I'll probably be there around 6. I think I'm supposed to go down to Bowie to meet up with this guy to pick up a sander. I bought a sander. I'm supposed to buy the sander from this guy, and he kind of flaked out the last time. I said, hey, I'm going to be down in your part of the woods tomorrow. If you're still interested. He's like, oh, okay, all right. Man, even so, this later, it's still beautiful. Still really nice. It's a little bit heavier now. Now that we're getting closer to the end, still a little bit heavy. But we're definitely into the last third, so I think we can put down, and I think it's been still at 9s for the second third. Gosh, if I knew this was going to take this long, I would have gone faster with the coffee, which I haven't really tasted. Let's see what it tastes like now. This. The one thing about this Festool cup, it doesn't insulate that well. So while it's not cold, it's certainly more lukewarm after an hour and a half. But yeah, that was the correlation, was just because Rusty had mentioned the Woodbinder-esque, which now that you think about it, makes me wonder, like, what am I going to do for that? How would I make it? Would I just use a binder and maybe use and then make it somehow like that? I'm going to have to think about that. It is a good idea. I had all these binders from because I had a lot of binders, like 4-inch binders for the shop. But then now that the tax seasons have finished for them, I could finally get rid of all these things. I got rid of all these papers and everything. You have to hold everything for 7 years. It's really kind of difficult. But so I purged like a good 15 years worth of records. I was like, finally purging these things. It'd be a shame if I had to go buy a binder to get the parts. What is the size of the score sheet paper? This is just typical 8.5 by 11s. There was a time when I was using like 9 by the big 9 by 14s because I had them sent out to a printer and he printed them for, I guess, whatever file I sent him for some reason said it was going to be the legal size. And I was like, what am I doing with these legal papers? But pretty much everything we use is 8.5 by 11. Tony says, that's what the fire pits are for purging records. You know, here's the thing. I've got like, since I've been doing the woodworking thing, man, I got a lot of cutoffs. I've been burning. Like, you got to burn, like. And I still got too many cutoffs here. It's like, but they're kind of a bigger size. So it's like, do I really want to burn these? And the nice thing about burning like wood from like woodworking is that it's all very dry. So it like burns well. Like it's burning. But I've been doing a lot of fires and like, Matt, wow, before the fall, Matt gave me this. We filled up, he gave me a whole bunch of firewood, so he filled up my truck bed. I filled it up. And I've probably burned through half of it already. Now I'm kind of worried. But I was tearing apart some pallets last week or the week before. It's had all this pallet wood, but this pallet wood was really different because I was looking, I need to make some cabinets here for the workshop. And I'm really cheap. I'm cheap. Like you people, if you watch YouTube for woodworking, like these guys say, oh, go buy this Baltic birch plywood. And Baltic birch plywood is like $85 to $125 a sheet. You're like, what am I? I'm not going to pay that. That's crazy. So I just harvest like wood that I can find from someplace. Like Matt at one point had a couple sheets of like OSB sitting outside in the weather for like 2 years. It was all like tainted and like all mucked up. I was like, well, that looks pretty good. So I used that. I used that to build a lot of stuff that you see in here. And but I needed some more. And I was like, man, I need to go find some. And they make some pallets out of plywood. Like the tops are plywood. Like some of them are like 3/4 inch or like, whatever, just below 3/4 inch. So I found them at they had a couple of them outside of a Gramophone. And I called up the guy at Gramophone. I said, hey man, do you mind if I take some pallets? He's like, no, man, go right ahead. I was like, thank you. So these have like plywood panels, but the risers, they typically will use like 2x4s for the risers, but this one, they were using these blocks of particle board blocks, like just particulate sandwiched pressed into a block of just particulate with adhesive. And I was like, I got a whole bunch of these. I'm going to burn these suckers. I was sitting outside the other day burning. Last Saturday, I was burning. And they burn fairly well, but it's like, man, this is probably really bad for your health. Like people say not to burn plywood and like any kind of like OSB or like flake board or particle board. They say not to burn that stuff, but I was like, oh, I need to burn it. Brian says, why the trip down to Jessup? Special event, don't they cover? I guess they do. I never get charged. No, but actually, Cirillo has called me up. He's like, I'm going to town. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. He said, let's get together and have a cigar. I was like, all right, I'll come down on Friday night. So that's why we're going. And then I'm going to Bowie to meet this guy because he has this old Festool sander. And I mean, it's old. It's like 20 years old. And I've always been curious about this particular sander. And I was like, and he was asking like a crazy amount of money, like $375. I was like, no, dude. I was like, how about this? I said, I get it. If you find someone that buys it, that's fine. I understand. I'll give you $100. Because he said, well, it's this, how much? It's like $700 new. I said, yeah, but this model is like 20 plus years old and it's a generation or two older. So it's not even the current model. So he's like, all right. So he kind of flaked out last week. So I was like, well, I guess we're done. But I thought, I'll message him today. I messaged him today. I was like, hey man, I'll be in Bowie. I'll be down your way tomorrow if you're still interested. He's like, oh yeah, I'm really sorry. I had some stuff come up. I was like, yeah, no worries, man. But if you're still interested. So tomorrow we're supposed to meet probably around 3 o'clock. So we'll see. Festool makes this thing called the Rotex sander. It's this like gear-driven sander. They're pretty awesome. Like I have one that I bought used for a really good deal back in March. But this is like the first like one of the first generations of this tool. And I was like, I've just always been curious to see how do they compare? And so I've kind of kept my eyes open for it. But I found this guy and I was like, oh, I wonder if he'll sell it to me. So we'll see. Maybe. Yeah, if any of you guys have the time, if you want to come down, come down. it's always kind of wild down there. Like we usually sit outside on the deck, on the porch, and it's packed. Like it's packed, and everybody's drinking. Like these guys drink. Like I am just every time I hang out with them, I'm always shocked. It's like, wow, these guys. Like we're talking bottles and bottles of tequila, and they all go home. And I was like, how do you go home? Like I couldn't do any of it. Like I won't even drink at all because I'm like, I don't want to risk going home. It's like, yeah, so you guys have the time. Come on down. Should be kind of nice. Probably there for a few hours. Oh, and Brian, man, it is that time, isn't it? Like you are now a free man, right? I forgot about that. And I just remembered. You're free now. Happy retirement. What are you doing now? Like, are you like, what do? You sit around the house like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Like, I know you've been sitting around the house for the last couple of years because of the work from home thing, but like, you're sitting around at home working, but now what do? Just sit around and like, I don't know what I would do. Like, I would like to think that I'm going to be doing like woodworking. Like today, I was supposed to like, I'm working on this. I have this idea for this outdoor bench, because right? I have this stool, right? And I've been working on this stool for like the last like 7 months. This stool right here, right? This stool here, and I have to carve out the seat. And it's meant to be at like a 10-degree angle, the seat, when you finish it. So, and I found out that like, because back last year, there's something called the American Craft Show that happens at the Baltimore Convention Center. And this one woodworker that was exhibiting there, he had this stool that was, and I remember sitting in it and I was like, man, the way that you sat, it just sat you in a way that your spine was like straight, and you had perfect posture, and it was so like comfortable. And I was like, I want to make something like that. So part of that I found out over the time is that it has to be this 10-degree angle. And then you carve out the seat. But you know, with the carving, when you're using these carving tools, it just blows like dust everywhere, which I don't really want to do. Like I have to clean. I'm very anal about the dust collection thing. So I was thinking I would like to go outside and do the carving outside. And like Black Friday, Lowe's had this, there's a company called Klein Tools, and they have this portable workbench, work table, and they're selling it on sale for like 99 bucks. I was like, I want to buy that. And then I was like, well, that's 99 bucks. I don't want to spend that money. I'm cheap. And I was like, man, let me get I can make something. I got some wood. I'm going to make something. So I've been working on it. And I was like, let me make something that, there's a guy on YouTube called, by the name of John Peters. He's got like 1 million followers. He makes like furniture. And he had this one video where he talks about a table that he put outside. He made out of like paddock, and he put spar varnish on it, like for boats. And he was talking about how well it's held up and all this. And I was like, oh, and he talked about the design features that he did, like the way that he did the roundovers and something called a drip edge so that so the water doesn't pool up underneath the table surface and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm going to utilize those things in this tabletop. So I built this tabletop that I'm going to mount on a stand. This is just hard here. It's like 27 inches square, more or less. There's a radius here. But it's basically walnut, ambrosia maple, and cherry. And so it has the dog hole that I can mount, so I can take that seat, secure it to the top, and then do it. But there's like knots in it, so I have to fill it. So I've been filling it slowly with epoxy, which is taking a long time. It's taking a long time. And today I was planning on like doing some sanding on it, some finishing, and then more epoxy. And it's one of those things where it's like you think you're going to do something, and you're like, I got the time. And then everything happens, and you're like, oh man, it's already 6 o'clock, and I haven't done anything. Oh, the last day is tomorrow. Oh man, last day is tomorrow. What are you going to do on Monday? I got to remember to call you Monday. But like, what are you doing today? Stop sitting at the table. Go do something. Go build your lounge, man. That's what you need to build your lounge. Rusty's asking, is the new Spro Cafe in the back? The new Spro is not on the back burner necessarily. It had been on the back burner for this past 7 months, but now we're making it more in the forefront. So I've actually got plans to build one of the counters for it. Again, it's just like, man, you know, I have this plans to do things. It's just like I need to do it, and it's just like taking the time. Like I bought the wood for it like 2 months ago, so it's ready to go. The wood is now fully seasoned, because they always talk about like you buy wood and you're supposed to like bring it to your workshop and let it stabilize, right? Like from fluctuations with environment. But you know, my sawyer, the guy that I buy the wood from, he's like 2 miles from here, and he basically will he finds trees on it. He's got a big farm. He finds trees on his property that have died or they've fallen through storms or whatever. He cuts them up. He's got a mill, so he slabs them out and then mills everything down, and then he stores it in this open air barn. Like this huge barn. Like it's a huge barn. Like, oh my God, this is huge. And he's got stacks of wood. It's all stacked up. So it's all like kind of in the open, like it's all exposed to the environment, kind of, you know, but covered. And my garage is pretty much the environmental conditions of outside. So it's not like there's, I want, like I asked some people about this, like, do I really need to like adjust it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, but it's the same environment. Like, I don't know if there's really much of an advantage, but you know, it's had the time to season itself only because I've just been delayed in actually working on it. My landlord was asking me recently the same. My landlord is really cool. He asked every couple of months, he's like, are you still going? He's like, yeah, man. He's always like, if you need to get out, you just let me know. I was like, all right, thanks. Brian says, Monday I'm in New York for nephew's college. Oh, that's awesome, man. Tell him congratulations. That'll be a fun time. Okay, so you're doing something good. Go smoke cigars. Maybe go to the Carnegie Lounge? Carnegie Hall? Not Carnegie Hall. Carnegie Club. That's what it is. We usually go to, I've been to Carnegie Club a couple times. I've been to the Club Macanudo once. A lot of times, in the old days, we used to go up to 51st Street and 51st and First, I think it is. We would go up there to what they call now the Monte Cristo Lounge, I think it's called. It was the old Smoke Inn. We used to go there a lot. But lately, since I stay at my friend's place in Chelsea, we normally now go to, there's a place called Hudson Books, Soho Books, something like that. They call it Books or Library or something like that, but it's basically a cigar bar. And you go there and everybody's smoking cigars. It's really a great scene. And then, of course, Carnegie Club's really good. Soho is actually different. There's a place right on Houston Street, or right around where Houston and the tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel comes to Lincoln. Not Lincoln. What's the tunnel down south? Lincoln is the one midtown. Anyway, right by there's another cigar bar. That's pretty good. That's pretty good too. But we normally go to that Hudson Books. But we used to go to a place called, there used to be a place right on West Broadway, little tiny cigar joint, and Mom probably knows this place. I can't remember. And Rusty, you might know this place. I can't remember the name. I've been there years because they closed it many years ago. But I remember I love going to that place because you go in, it's this little teeny tiny sliver of a retail space. You walk in, it's like super narrow and wide. And then the humidor's to the right. It's really teeny tiny humidor. You go in, I can't remember if you go in or they just got the cigars, but you go there, you get the cigars. And there was an old spiral, like thin staircase to the basement. And you go down to the basement, and like it's a basement like of a cigar shop. So there's like chairs. They're kind of scattered all over the basement, but there's all kinds of stuff, stock, inventory. Who knows what was down? They're just stacked up all over the place. You're kind of like maneuvering around it. But man, such a great time. Like we would go there and hang out, and you meet all kinds of cool people, like politicians, directors, actors would be there. Just like nice, man. Really good times there. Holland Tunnel. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Rusty says, gotta go to bed early day tomorrow. Have a good night, Rusty. Thank you for coming in. Good to see you. Man, this is taking a long time. So for $200, you really get a lot of cigar out of it. So worth the money. And I think, well, we're not through. I think we can at least get through some of the scoring. I'm going to give it, unless we have some severe performance changes, I think we're going to have to get, now I've got to say, so 9s across the board for the flavor and body. We did have some, like the draw was great, excellent. The burn, I'm going to have to say was kind of medium because, we did have a couple times we had to retouch it up and light it up. So I'm going to say 8.5 for burn and draw. Consistency, I'm going to say excellent, 9. Now, if I can't say 9 overall because that would not be reflective of the burn and draw. So I'm going to say 8.75 for that. 18, 17, 5. Okay, so 36. Well, oops. All right, so how did this cigar perform? So let's say it doesn't change in the rest of this third. So, but we got 9s, man, pretty much the 9s except for burn and draw, which is 8.5, and overall 8.75, which means that we have a score total of 89.25. So 89.25 for the very first cigar of 2026. So very good performance, like excellent performance. Almost excellent performance. Now, of course, had we not had these issues with the burn, and there could be, I would attribute like George Shem was saying that some of it was because I'm talking a lot and slowing down and that, so there's going to be that. But some of the other ones, a couple of the times I think was more it just lost combustion for some reason. I don't know if necessarily. So, but let's say if we were to get that, we're still talking 90. So still, so right on that cusp. Oh yeah, Brian's gonna be at NYC. Nice. I have to say, I have been this last few years, actually since the pandemic, I have been fairly reticent to go to New York. Not because I don't like it, just because it's such a, I don't know, I feel like it's a hassle to go. Like, and the crazy thing, I used to go all the time, like almost weekly in years past. But like ever since they stopped doing the International Chefs Congress, like I haven't really had an impetus to go. Like there's a couple other events that I go to, like they have NAB, New York, what's that called? B&H Photos has their creators weekend. And I keep planning on going. Like I sign up for them and I just never end up going. I'm like, my friend who's in Chelsea was like, when are you gonna come up? I was like, I'm gonna come up soon. But I don't know, nowadays I always feel like oh man, it costs so much to go there. It's like, because if I go, I want to drive because I want to go check out some things on the way home or whatever. And then it's like, you drive up and you got to pay all these tolls, you got to pay the tunnels, and now you're gonna have to pay the congestion fee, and then it costs like $70 a day to like whatever crazy amount of money to pay it to park. And it's like, but I need to go. Maybe this year. This year I'll go. This year I'll go. Especially since I was always talking about, I've always wanted to go see La Boheme at the Met. I was thinking I was going to go in December, but then it just, at the end of the day, I tend to be lazy. It's terrible. It's terrible. Man, we used to go clubbing, shopping. Man, it's just taken. You get your money's worth out of this cigar. I'm surprised we haven't seen Brightman tonight. Normally he stops in even for a few minutes. And the football season's over. Or maybe it's not over. Is it still, are there any games tonight? I think we're in the postseason for everybody, right? We had our heartbreak last weekend. The Ravens lost to to Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a time when football was super important for me. I was like so into it. But the last several years have not been so intense. And I think part of it's because the teams have changed, right? Like, I remember back like 10, 12, 15 years ago, the rivalry between the Ravens and the Steelers was super intense, like super like hardcore. And like that was the only thing that mattered, right? We wanted to win. Like we had to win. Like we play in the division, you play your division teams twice in a season. And there's always those things where like, if we can beat the Steelers in both games, that's great. That's all we need, right? Like Super Bowl, no big deal. Beat the Steelers, that's all that matters. But recently, since, and that was the era of like Roethlisberger, Polamalu, and they were always like super good. Like we just hated them. But after they left and the team wasn't as strong, victory was not as sweet. Victory was just, okay, we beat them. Okay, good. That's fine. Brian says, go to bed, exit interview first thing in the morning. Oh, man, exit interview. Have a great one, man. Good to see you. All right. I guess we're going to wrap that up then. That's a good call to go home. So, good to see all of you. Thank you very much for hanging out with me on the very first Cigar Thursday Night Hang of 2026. Back again next Thursday with more cigars and coffee. I'm not sure what the cigar is going to be yet, but I'll figure that out soon. So I hope your year's going to be a great one. I hope your week's going to be a great one. And see you next time.